G'day there, welcome back to the race side. It is great to be back. It's been a hot minute since we've done a live show here. We did play Battlefront last week, which was super duper fun. That was really fun to play with you guys. I got a bunch of the audience playing all together, which was amazing. We're going to be doing that very, very soon again. So make sure, if you've got Battlefront and you love to play with people, make sure you tune in when we do that. But this is the first time we've done a live show. Just hanging out and talking things and doing things for a little while. If you can't hear it already, maybe I haven't spoken yet today. I didn't realize my voice was this bad. I do have a bit of a chest infection at the moment, but that is not hindering my excitement for being here today, doing this show today. We're going to have a great time. I've got my tea, so don't be alarmed by the sound of my voice. I do feel quite okay. It's just in the chest. But we're going to go through Clone Wars. I felt like this was a very timely thing because if you were here before the Ahsoka streams, we did Rebels Recon, that's what it's called. We went through Rebels Recon, which is the behind-the-scenes videos for, obviously, Star Wars Rebels. And that was super fun. I have never personally watched any of those videos. I learned so much about the Rebels, how they made it, the characters, just like so much extra info, which was super cool. Obviously, then watching through Ahsoka, that was amazing to do with you all, for you, everyone that was in those streams. I thought we'd carry on this torch of going through the Clone Wars behind the scenes, which is going to be very, very exciting. So this is going to be a long series because there's bloody 7 seasons of Clone Wars. So can't wait. It's going to be good. But before we go any further, who the hell is in the chat today? Who is here ready for the show? Let's check it out. Got Master Yava in the chat. DB's here. Master Julie's here. CG, loving to hang out, but I got to go work out. Pumping that iron. Love it. Been putting it off while he's at the gym. Pumping that iron. Love it. CG, Chicken Texas in the chat. Fabio's here. Love to see it. Kirsty's here. I love it. JS, oh, so good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. Master Julie coming in with a $5 dues. Pelimoto has arrived. Team Star Wars Funko. I lobbied for months. You've been on this Pelimoto Funko Pop train for a long, long time. When I saw that, I was so happy for you. I was so happy for you. I feel like I haven't spoken to anyone today, so I didn't know my voice sounded like this. This is so funny. But thank you for the $5 dues. I appreciate it. And I think I'm going to get my hands on that Pelly as well. It might sell out. You never know. Glad's here. Alec the Rayside is here. Actually, Alec, you should change your name to Alec the Rayside. Makes sense. Brian's here, tuning in. Darren in the chat as well. Barista Padawan, first time catching alive with you. I'm so glad. Yeah, I've had a little bit of a hiatus. Not hiatus. It was just a break. I just was having a bit of a break. The Ahsoka streams were amazing. It took so much energy. So we've only done like 1 or 2 the past like 2 weeks. So you're in for a treat. I'm so glad you're here for this one. This is a good one. It's got to be a good one. Yeah, is it the time? Maybe it's the time of year. I don't know. But a chest infection for months now. Sick of being sick. I know. I feel like every few months I have to like be like, oh, sorry everyone, can't do streams because I'm sick. I don't know what's happening. Maybe it's just the air. The air's been in lockdown for too long. Hey Magpie's this. How you doing? Getting the welcome, barista. Love it. Thank you, Fabio. Appreciate it. But anyway. Almost spilt the tea. Hey. I wonder if that's where the saying comes from. Spilt the tea. Almost spilt the tea just then. Does anyone, before we go any further, does anyone notice anything different about what I'm wearing today? I haven't seen any comments about it. Come on, gang. Come on. Who's the first to notice? Been waiting. If you cannot tell, I have this stylish, comfortable, fashionable piece of headwear on right now. This is from a new line of Rayside merch that will be dropping probably tomorrow. I don't have an exact time, but I'm going to say probably tomorrow. So hold on to your wallets. Get ready to order. There'll be a sale code as well coming out. They aren't available yet, but they will be very shortly. So there's a new line. There's hats, there's beanies, hoodies, some other goodies in there. So if you want to check out some new Rayside merch, Get ready. It's not there yet. You can't look anywhere yet. It's not out. But it will be very soon, probably tomorrow. I will make a very big announcement. You won't miss it. You won't not know. You won't not know when it's out. But keep your mind on it. You guys are going into summer. Sorry. You guys are going into winter. I'm going to summer. So I've got the beanies and the hoodies, but we've also got the shirts and the hats as well. For any season, it is for you, I guess. It's all different. It's all different. All right. What the hell are we doing today? We're going in behind the scenes Clone Wars. It's gonna be really good. Also, my voice sounds so different. I haven't said anything today. Like this morning, because I live by myself, so I haven't been saying anything. So this is like the first time I've spoken today. I'm like, geez, I sound horrible. That's so funny. Looking forward to Skeleton Crew. You know what? I'll take it. I'm not overly excited for it, but I'm like, it's a Star Wars thing. I'll watch it. Hopefully it's amazing. Hopefully it amazes me. Like, maybe under promise, over deliver. I don't know. Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. I know. Come on, you guys. I expected more. Come on. Oh, I love it. But yeah, Skeleton Crew's coming. It's coming. There you go. I know. Maybe I should be doing that so then I can check what my voice sounds like. You are the Rayside. That's right. Kiadi Mundi is dead. Don't worry about Kiadi Mundi. These are my daily affirmations to myself. Thrawn is ever present. Thrawn lives inside of you. That's my daily, I don't know, daily mantras. What do you call those? I don't know. Yeah, where's Sin? Someone go get Sin. Hey, Clam Cakes. Oh my god, Clam, you're so right. I should try all the voices I couldn't do because my voice is slightly lower now. Merrick, I can't even remember what Merrick said. I am the Rebel leader. It's very funny. I wonder if I'm actually lower though. What was it? I don't want to try and do the Thrawn voice again. I'll get too upset that I can't do it. What's a voice that has a low register? Like a Vader, I guess. Oh, there's Rebel. I can't think of what's a freaking Vader quote. Oh man. Anyway, that'll go on a whole other tangent. We could do a whole show just trying to Maul. I could do Maul. Yeah. It's that thing was the second someone says, oh, like, think of a like song. You can't think of a song. It's like one of those classic things. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's go. Yaba is meeting his nephew for the first time. Oh, that is precious. That would be amazing, Yaba. That's why you're on the road, isn't it? Barista joining up as a member. Welcome to the Rebel Order. I don't know what to call it. Welcome to the Rebellion, becoming a Padawan. I'm so glad you're joining us here at the Rayside. I hope you enjoy your time. Amazing. Give them a warm welcome, Ray members. All right, let's get the hell going here. All right, like I said, we're going to be going into... I can take you in warm, or I can take you in cold. I don't know if I can get the words out right. Amazing, Katie. In the UK, so not caught your streams in a while. Glad to be back. I'm so glad you're here, Katie. I made it just a touch earlier, like an hour or two earlier today. Just Kirsty's in the UK too, so Scotland, and just to make it a bit easier for you guys. I know it's like midnight there though. Anyway, but anyway, we're gonna be going through behind the scenes. Let's do it. We got a lot of videos to go. I don't know why I'm sitting here yapping. We got a lot to do today. We got a lot to go through. So usually we've done this a few other ways, like a few methods, right? This is probably the best method I found. This is from the YouTube channel called Mr. Anderson. Shout out to them. They just repost all the behind the scenes footage of things, especially. Oh my god, Katie's in Scotland too. What's the chances? I have 2 Scottish viewers. That's great. Amazing. Thank you so much. Anyway, what the hell was I saying? Yeah. So this is this Mr. Anderson channel posts all the behind the scenes. So we're looking at his channel. Shout out to them, him, whatever. And that's what we're going to go through. Oh, pop goes the Weasel. We got 3 UK viewers. Where are my UK viewers at? Anyone else from the UK? That's amazing. It's so cool. I love that. But we're going to start off with the first one, the first behind the scenes. We're going to go 4. We've got 4 people from the UK. Wow. So this is obviously the Ambush feature. Ambush was episode 1, even though a season 1 of Clone Wars was out of chronological order. It was just in this random order. Ambush being the very first episode of the season. That's where we start off. Let's get going.
I must get you to safety, General.
Let me know about the sound level. Is this too loud? Too quiet?
Is my mission.
I'm a bit big, aren't I?
I must go.
It was Yoda's first episode in the Clone Wars that we did. There were elements that we really wanted to explore, and that was, things that were classic to Yoda as a teacher. And we thought this was a great opportunity to show how the Jedi interact with the clones.
Your helmets. Remove them. Your faces I wish to see.
Specifically, Yoda in a teaching role of the clones who were socially
UK
new,
fans
who
coming from?
kind of grew up
UK.
or
Love
created
you
to
guys.
fight. And he really broadened their horizons and helped them realize that there was a great big universe out there that was bigger than just
amazing
fighting and killing.
Grease. Always focused on the enemy, are you? For inspiration, look to yourself and those beside you.
You see Yoda teaching the clones much like he taught Luke, because that was kind of natural for them, a natural instinct to take these clones like their students. And it really allowed Yoda to have a scene that was reminiscent of a scene that we both liked growing up. When he was
such a good
teaching
point.
Luke.
It is so the same, isn't it?
We also wanted to show some of the fun side of Yoda. In the prequel films, he came off so serious as the senior member of the Jedi Council. So having him interact with the droids and being a little more that kind of impish, gremlin-like creature was a lot of fun as well.
Smaller in number, are we? But larger in mind.
Do you have any idea what the General is talking about?
Hey, get off of me! Don't move.
One of the things that's interesting on the series is that characters that you don't realize have been pushed to the extent that they have been come up all the time, and Yoda is one of them. If you put the Clone Wars version of Yoda right beside the digital Yoda from the prequels, they are very, very different. The
That's such a good
Clone
point.
Wars version of Yoda
They do
has
look
a
quite
huge
different.
head. His hands are much bigger, his feet are much bigger, his eyes are much bigger. Everything has been sort of pushed and stylized, and Yoda was really helpful because you could see what happened to Yoda as he made the transition to the 3D version for Clone Wars. So we could use that to sort of base how we were going to push or stylize other characters that were either rubber masks at some point or completely digital.
What, you think you're some kind of Jedi waving your hand around like that? I'm a Toydarian!
An interesting thing about Watto in The Phantom Menace is, he is a Toydarian, but he's on Tatooine. What are the other Toydarians like who are actually on Toydaria?
King Katuko. Oh, I love King Katuko.
Ambush was the first time that we saw Toydarians besides Watto. Generally, because there were so many different characters in the movies, you see one of each type for the most part. So the trap that you might fall into is decide that every single person from that species looks exactly like that species. We decided to groom our Toydarians and make them a little more
You hate
put
Watto,
together.
Fabio.
So
Why do you
Kantunko
hate
sort of
Watto?
braids
What does
his
it mean?
stubble
Very
into
nice.
2 plaited sort of beard
Well,
looking
I guess he's a
things, which
slave
keeps
owner,
them
so
sort of
yes,
cleaner. It was also
great
technically
attribute,
easier.
right?
Dave Filoni decided that the king should have much longer snout than the average Toydarian did because he's the king. He was also slightly rounder. The idea was that Toydarians sort of prided themselves on how big their bellies could be, and the rounder you were, the more in shape you are if you're a Toydarian.
I always looked at Katunko as the king of the Vulturemen from Flash Gordon. That's who this guy was. So I gave him a little Wagnerian style helmet that came down with little wings. He was just a really fun character to develop. Watu influenced it a little bit, but in a way, Watu was only giving us one look at a Toydarian.
Why is he
a
saying
guy who was
Watu?
kind of, for whatever reason, out there, far from the bright center of the universe.
I have a great faith in the boy. Is a credit to your race.
Good music, eh? This is cool music.
this moon.
Oh, where'd it go? Oh, what? Oh, geez, hang on. Sorry, I don't know what the hell happened there. Bye. There we go.
We attacked the planets. I always wanted to have a different look for every planet. There was always kind of a Flash Gordon idea going on in Star Wars that this is an ice planet.
Me
This
too.
is a jungle planet. This is a forest moon. You create a short list of what hasn't been done by George already, because he'll tell you he's done them all, or at least the easy ones, he tells me. I did some concept paintings of the coral planet. Yeah, I don't know. I just had the idea that maybe this was kind of a coral moon, that at one time there were vast oceans on it and it had long ago dried out. There are even some fossils on there, I think, if you look closely in the background. And Russell Chong did a great job at, kind of creating all these different corals. And I especially wanted shots where there'd be little rays of light coming down through the coral bed and give a doppled look to the ground. And, a lot of it also, besides just wanting a different environment, was how is the environment going to affect the episode? So it's just a coral moon, and it was a new way to look at a planet on Star Wars.
Look, a little green
Hey, Ben.
light form. You
Yeah, it's
fucking
a great
head,
time.
that's the Jedi.
Wait, this is only the
Because
first
the
one,
battle
too, by the
droids
way.
don't have mouths, we get to add whatever we
Oh,
want.
look how
into
young
the-
he is.
To like
My
inject
God.
humor
So
whenever
young.
we can, or some kind of plot forwarding device. And one of the ones was there's this one droid is like up in his tank, and he sees Yoda run underneath the tank, and we put that part when he's coming down. We added like, "But I just got promoted." And we added that like at the last minute.
But I just got promoted.
That was one of those ones we didn't
Oh,
tell him ahead of
classic. It's a
time. We
classic.
got a big laugh.
Doesn't look like the general needs help to me.
The bird that lands on his shoulder is my
Actually,
cat.
lightning didn't.
Is
Is it
doing-
lightning or
I
chicken?
don't know if you've
Like,
seen
you guys,
cats when they get
quoted it
really
just the other
anxious
day,
and they
too.
start chirping at things. They have this weird little.
No, this is
chirpy
just
thing,
on
nervous
YouTube.
chirp.
Quiet, Renan. It's on YouTube.
Learn something today, have you, Lieutenant?
I think we all did, General.
So that's my cat chirping. Is the bird?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Which will get residuals, right? Your
Yes,
cat.
my cat's SAG-AFTRA. Yes.
Wow, how topical. How topical. Oh, I love it. So cool. We'll keep on rolling on. I mean, if there's anything like mind-blowing, we might stop for a moment. But so cool. So cool. It's just interesting to see like the development of everything, especially hearing like my favorite parts are probably Dave speaking, because obviously with the Ahsoka show fresh in our mind, it's like, wow, like this was like 15 years ago. This is like where like all that love and passion was just like slowly building. So cool. So cool. But season 1, Rising Malevolence. Let's get into it. It's gonna be good.
The fleet is
Like
holding
who?
its position, sir.
I think it wise to report our position before we attack.
When we talk about Plo Koon,
Yes.
very early on, I knew he was your favorite character.
Why? Because I said he's my favorite character. It's amazing.
Well, no, I
Mm,
knew you
was
were
good,
working on. Actually, I think the one of the first times I came over to your house, right after
Uh-huh.
we were both hired on the series, where you were actually in your garage
That's
building
right.
a Kit Fisto costume,
For
but you
Giancarlo.
had the Plo
I had
Koon
finished that one, yeah.
costume there, and I was like, wow, he built a Plo Koon costume, and I'm thinking to myself, I can understand Obi-Wan, or some other character, but I'm thinking Plo Koon, what has he done? Sat on the Jedi Council and just kind of moved his fingers a little bit and tilted his head, but there wasn't anything to him, so he was a clean slate.
Plo was probably one of the easiest assignments that I ever had on the show because I didn't really have to do anything. Dave Filoni already had a maquette sculpted by Darren Marshall, which was exactly
He's
how
my
he
favorite
wanted Plo to
Jedi.
look from the
I could
neck
say
up.
Plo Koon's probably my
And
favorite
he
Jedi.
had no shortage of opinions and ideas on how Plo would look from the neck down. I mean, he was very specific about the boots, the belt, the tunic, the collar, everything. Because Plo happened early enough in the series that we were still figuring out how we were going to do this stuff, Plo's geometry is very, very simple, but he looks more detailed than a lot of characters that came along later because of the texture work that's on his mask, which is all Tim Brock. It gives the sense of this carved metal really, really well, even though it's just a simple flat plane.
I think Dave's initial thought about Plo Koon was he wanted him to be this sort of wise, sort of sage-like figure.
When you ask for trouble, you should not be surprised.
He does have
when
some
it
great
finds
one-liners,
He
doesn't he?
kind of sounds a little
Great
bit
lines.
like to me like Gandalf.
I don't believe in chance, Commander. I know if we work together, we will stay alive.
It definitely feels like it's going through whatever that filter is on his mouth.
Kotoya, Master Plo.
Kotoya, little sir.
Kotoya,
The
Master
phrase
Plo.
Kotoya is a greeting in Plo Koon
Joey.
language, Keldor. You know, that was something that
How dare you?
allowed you early in the episode to kind of go, wait a minute, Ahsoka knows how to speak to Plo Koon in this weird language. What's that about? So it kind of
Kotoya,
hints at the
Master
idea
Plo.
that she knows Plo Koon actually better than Anakin
Look at
does.
him.
How do you know Master Plo anyway?
It was Master Plo Koon who found me and brought me to the temple where I belonged.
That gave her more of a reason to want to go and be a bit bratty and
Look at his
find
little
him,
head.
find her friend.
He needs our support. We have to go help him.
It was interesting to give
And
Plo
he's
Koon and
astromech.
Ahsoka's
He's
relationship
astromech as
where
well.
it's somewhat mentorly. So he's a different type of mentor for her
I
as
love
this series goes along.
It is time to go.
Go? Where are you going, sir?
Outside to destroy the enemy.
Mm.
I can withstand the pressure
Please.
for a brief time.
If you say so, sir.
Plo Koon surviving in space. This was a hotly debated thing with my master George.
Oh, 100% Katie.
What's a Jedi
Be
doing
awesome
out
if it's
here?
like he
Yeah, he's
did
like, what's that
survive or
about?
something. I
How
don't
can he
know.
survive in space? You know, to me, it makes a lot of sense. He's an alien. I don't know what he can and can't do. It's not defined. If we say he can go out into space, then he can go out into space. George always made fun of us because he said, I made 6 films without having anybody fight in space. And I said, yeah, but Grievous got sucked out into space and then walked on the top of the cruiser. George is like he's a robot. I was like, no, he's not. He's a cyborg. And, you know, so it's fun to argue with George about those things. He gets into it, and you know that's fun.
That's cool.
Makes sense
See, like
to me.
that's epic. That's
I
so
think it
wild.
builds his character
That's
because
so
he's
wild.
doing it for his men. What he's saying is that I can survive for a brief time, and it's going to keep you guys alive.
Why are you so certain no one is coming?
We're just clones, sir.
Some fun things. I put wolves on Plo Koon's clones' helmets because I like wolves. I'm a big supporter of wolves and their natural habitat and their conservation. And Plo Koon's commander is Commander Wolf.
There's too much interference, sir.
You'll see him later in season 2. Actually, he's got a big gash in his eye, and he now has a silver eye. So that's kind of neat.
Quickly, into the pods!
The escape pods, which are based on the movie Escape
so cool.
Pods.
It's so cool.
Simplified and slightly stylized by Tang Li. We've used those things quite a bit. That was talked about mileage. Yeah, we've seen the escape pods a lot, and will. I mean, it's just a useful plot thing. They were in the very first movie, and they're just a good way to get people out of trouble fast. I hope people are fans of the escape pods because there's going to be lots of them.
I experimented with the entire escape from the debris field, where I kind of just drew an overall map of the direction I wanted the ships to go.
100%.
And we looked at shots from
So I'm like,
ships
he's
back
my
at them
favorite.
in the asteroid
Like
belt. I said,
Jedi,
"That's what I want this
Ahsoka
to
left
be."
Order.
Go through some
I can
debris,
turn
over some
evil. I'm like,
debris,
Chloe's
really
my
pitch the
favorite. I
ship.
think.
I was never sure how well it worked until we synced up a jump that Lando makes to hyperspace in the end of Empire Strikes Back, where there's that big John Williams saying ba 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 ba. They jump. So we hit that point with when the Twilight jumps at the end of Malevolence, and it really worked great through the debris field. And finally, I was like, wow,
I've never
that
played
episode has
Minecraft.
an ending.
Master?
I was sure
Should this be
sweating
my
it when we
entry?
showed it to
Should this be
George
my door into
because
Minecraft?
We had changed it quite substantially from the script that he had approved, but he really felt that, you know, the shots had a purpose all the time, and he said it was the first time he felt like the heroes really might not get away, and that was when I think we
Hey,
thought,
Ballista.
okay, this show's really
No,
going to start to
good.
work now.
Hanging out.
We're clear.
It's a cool episode, that one. It's a cool episode. And it's like this whole arc is actually very interesting. Like for the opener of season 1, pretty good. Pretty solid. Pretty solid. Also, Ben, I just realized you freaking look like Bear Grylls. Has anyone ever told you that? You look like in that profile picture, you look like Bear Grylls, dude. Just had to point that out. 100%. All right, let's go. Next one. This whole arc is so cool.
We
All right,
wanted to have a
I'm just gonna top up my
Bismarck-style battleship. We wanted this massive weapon that the Republic, you know, kind of wasn't aware of, and It was like a mystery, and it was wiping out people. No one knew what it was because there were no survivors. One thing George likes to do is he likes to take old designs and use them if he never used them. There was a communication ship developed for Revenge of the Sith that the Separatists had, and it wound up in the pool of ships to be used as a possible battleship.
I don't think it ever felt as big and aggressive as Dave was hoping it would be. The decision was made fairly late in production to sort of go back to the Malevolence and decide to just revisit it, see if there was a way to make it feel more like a traditional Star Wars ship.
And I started talking with Russell Chong. He's a classic Macquarie-studied artist. And I said, you know, Russell, why don't we look at the Mon Calamari cruiser and the Rebel transport and use that kind of shell shape to get the Malevolence more in line with classic Star Wars. Obviously the Imperials. So anything we did with the Separatists has to be very different from that. So the Malevolence became this giant-sized version. And I described to Russell keeping those big ion cannons on the side and then doing these massive shell shapes with like this little city in the middle of it, which harkens kind of to the Death Star and kind of the trenches that you'd see. And Russell being Russell, I mean, he just nailed the design. And instantly we knew that this was a better ship. It was a big, 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 big deal because it's a massive ship.
It was a huge challenge because it just kept growing and there were so many more bits to add. When the Malevolence was initially designed, we didn't know for sure.
Yeah, I might. Yeah, if some of you are keen to like help me with that, because I don't know Minecraft.
The equator and all the detail that's in there was done sort of quickly, and then afterwards we realized that for destroying Malevolence, we would have to actually see that stuff up close. So there was a certain amount of going back and adding to the Malevolence, and then adding some more, and then adding a bit more.
To turn that model around, get it designed, get it built, get it textured, it was a huge amount of work. But again, the crew really cares about Star Wars, so everybody knew that was going to be better.
We're only on to the second video.
The time we had, and it came out great.
Prepare the ion cannon.
Prepare.
Destroy the medical station.
Another thing I really liked about this episode was it's kind of a defining character moment for Grievous, where he could go out there and attack other battleships or armed enemies, but
glad you could join us.
He basically goes after the ambulance. They can't defend themselves. It really shows what a brutal, merciless killer he is.
And good job doing streaming over the weekend. So DB, was it DB and Sin came and joined you?
I've contacted the Naboo. They are sending ships to help you.
We had the Republic medical base. You won't see this in the show, but trust me, it's true. If you were to look directly down, straight down onto the medical base, it actually forms the Republic logo. The shape of it from directly overhead is the Republic symbol.
That is so cool. That is such a random fact. Like, what a random detail.
Jedi is supposed to be able to dock with it and fit into those little docking ports.
That's cool. That's really cool.
They don't really fit. It's one of those things. If you look at the initial concept, you'll see how the Jedi cruisers are supposed to dock with this kind of ring station.
That's so true, Brett.
And
that's
then
how
in space,
I sound.
Of course, there's always no real up or down, so they could dock this way or this way. And
it was a fun design because it's hard to do a medical base that looks kind of enough like a medical hospital base that you've seen before, but different enough that you're not just seeing the same thing. I think it worked out pretty well. That was a Tang Li design from beginning to end.
The Y-Wing.
Launch the fighters.
Nothing has caused more excitement in the studio than the Y-Wing fighter. Oh my gosh, the designs we did to get that thing to work.
It's funny, you could say, oh, it's just a spaceship, who cares? But it wasn't just a spaceship, it was one of the iconic fighters from the first Death Star battle, and it really mattered that it looked right.
Shadow Squadron, Titan formation. Call in.
Shadow 2, standing by.
It was a pretty big challenge because it had to fit in with the prequel designs, but it also had to credibly be the same ship that you would see in, episode 4 when it was supposed to be older and battered and war-torn.
For some reason, when my brother and I were very young, we understood that the Y-Wing was a repurposed fighter that the Rebel Alliance inherited from the Clone War that Obi-Wan Kenobi had talked about, and that's why they were also beat up.
I'm not sure if they'll ever see the light of day, but there are dozens of different Y-Wing designs that Russell Chong did. And what was great about them was that every single one of them really did conform to the basic shape that we knew had to be under there. But there were all kinds of different variations on the shapes and the style. What was interesting was that ultimately The one that worked best was the one that probably felt the most like the Y-Wing we all knew. You can definitely see the classic Y-Wing underneath there. It did what it was supposed to do, which was bridge the two trilogies. I think Russell really nailed it because it feels
That's a good point.
incredibly like it's part of the original trilogy, but it also fits right in with everything that you see in the prequels.
We put the old bubble canopy gun turret up there behind the pilot, like we see in the Ralph McQuarrie concept painting of the Y-Wing.
You've never seen a bubble appear on a Y-Wing, and the way it fits in so well and feels like it's part of the design was really gratifying just to see it work. In a strange way, when you look at the Y-Wings in episode 4 now, you kind of wonder where'd the bubble turret go? That thing was pretty cool.
That's a good point.
We had to really figure out our flying in the Clone Wars, and the Nebula was neat.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great thing with the knee brace.
The knee brace, right?
Take evasive action.
Something I always like to include in the Star Wars stories, especially ones that are based in space, to really bring out that fantasy aspect as creatures. And the knee brace, the idea that these giant space whales live in this cloud of nebula gas was a really interesting idea for me.
We did a baby knee brace, we had big knee brace, all kinds of knee brace. That was a scene where George said that he really liked that scene. Again, because it was different. It was new. We hadn't really seen something like that.
We're coming out of it.
That sequence where we're destroying the ion cannon for me is like where I really felt we were clicking. The way that the editing of the sound went together with the final explosion and how you cut that all together, I could watch that like over and over again.
Torpedoes away.
What you probably like the most about that is there's that massive buildup where it's overcharging and like the music's kind of building, and then there's just a slight gap, in the sound where it's the thing, you don't hear the ship just for a second.
Yeah.
And then there's that little
They definitely, those creatures
squeal
look like space.
just as that explodes.
Such a good point. Oh, that was a good one. I think there's another one in this arc. Wonder if they were the sort of inspiration for the Purgle. Yeah, the Purgles definitely. Purgle weren't in Clone Wars, were they? They were just in Rebels. So I wonder if this was like, I don't know. That's such a good point. It's such a great point, Darren. If that was the kind of the first thought of having something like a Purgle. Destroy the Malevolence. I kind of sound like Yularen. That's who I sound like.
Yes.
Really.
Destroy
the
Malevolence.
Yeah, this
the Malevolence.
episode, I'd always envisioned the end, how the Malevolence was destroyed when I first thought about
the galaxy.
this premise of the idea
General
of
Grievous
Han
Eddie's
Solo
Blue Army,
talked
Droid
about,
Army.
being careful of setting his nav computer because he didn't want to come out in the middle of a star, fly through a star, or come out in the middle of a planet or something, or come out and hit a planet.
Supernova.
Exactly.
Traveling through hyperspace ain't like dust and crops, boy. Without precise calculations, we'd fly right through a star or bounce too close to a supernova and that'd end your trip real quick, wouldn't it?
The idea being that, we haven't seen a ship smash into a planet at the speed of light or in hyperspace. So this was the opportunity to show it, and what better ship than the Malevolence?
The Navic computer is heading us right into the moon.
Oh my god, lightning! Hey, brother. Starting soon. Oh, that's so sad. That's okay. We're only up to like the fourth one.
One of the
It's gonna
things
take a
in
while.
the Malevolence.
I'm glad you're here.
that,
AAA
it's
as
kinda
well,
funny.
coming in at the same time.
Inside there were these trains running about. That was one of
That's
the
right, the
times where I kind of let the layout
trains.
department go with
Oh.
it, so to speak. I had just pictured these kind of tube tunnels with these trains in it. Well, I let Vince Toscano and the guys kind of run with the idea of this interior rail system in this giant battleship, because it was like, over a mile long, so it was huge. The guys created this like immense interior with all these tracks, like this giant chasm in the ship, and I was like,
Oh,
wow,
you gotta watch it. It's so good.
that's
It's
more
actually
than I
so
thought it was
good.
gonna be, but it was cool. I mean, it was huge.
Vince just went to town, and by the time we took a look at it, I asked Vince, have you actually opened the exterior of the Malevolence at any point just to see how big this thing might be? The first time through, it was so big that you could fly the Malevolence into itself. It was insane. It was giant. So we had to scale it down to the point where you can at least buy that this thing fit inside the Malevolence.
Your circuits are loose. No one's crazy enough to do that.
There's a lot of odd things that happen in the sound design room.
I was like, why? They don't have any safety on any of these trains. Like, there's no rail to hold on to, nothing like that. They just go.
So when Grievous is getting off one of these little trains, I told Matt Wood to act like a station conductor and say something like "mind the gap" or "please stand away from the rails."
Welcome to Railjet Substation 9-4.
Mind the gap. Mind the gap. And you can
gap.
hear it, like if you listen for it, it's in there.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so random. That's such a great piece of.
Every single episode has its own sort of
that's awesome.
challenges and things to sort of deal with.
I think we have a problem.
Whenever we possibly can, we will reuse stuff. What's really helpful for us is that we're dealing with two armies. There's the Separatists and there's the Republic. They're going to have multiples of ships. They're going to have equipment that's made by the same manufacturers. So if you see a door in one ship and then you cut to a different ship or a base, it's kind of okay that it's the exact same door. It makes sense. For example, the airlock, which you'll see in the Malevolence where Obi-Wan and Anakin dock, is the exact same airlock that Anakin and Ahsoka docked to Ganak's ship, the Vulture's Claw, in Downfall of a Droid. It's just lit differently and it's textured differently, so it fits in more with the bridge of the Malevolence and it looks less rusty and beat up. It's also the same room that Padme was thrown into in the movie. In Zero's Palace, it's the same room. The jail cell in Zero's Palace, the airlock on the Vulture's Claw, and the airlock on the Malevolence are all actually the exact same room. I wonder when it's going to show up again.
I love how we don't really notice that though.
R2, release the document.
Yeah, it's such a cool fact.
The
eh?
last
We've
shot,
known each other for years.
You know, in Destroy
Maybe why it
Malevolence,
works
it's
so
kind of it's a classic callback to the way Star Wars films end. They always end in kind of this series of images and then almost like a portrait shot. And, you know, there are many different ways to do it, and George has done a lot of them. So a lot of the early episodes end that way with this silent shot. When they go after the Malevolence, the last shot is Anakin and Ahsoka standing in a hangar together with R2 there, and some Y-wings fly by. I mean, that's pretty much the end of The Empire Strikes Back, right? When Luke and Leia are in the medical frigate. These classic shots, I think, just kind of connect us.
Hey, Second
visually
Sons.
to Star Wars, and
I know, me too.
It's a
I'm
very
glad to
rare
be back.
opportunity in the Clone
Back,
Wars
Emmons.
to have Padme, Anakin, Obi-Wan, R2, 3PO. I mean, when are they ever all together? You have no idea how
Back
hard
in
it
the
is
chat.
to get R2
Love to
and
see it.
3PO in the
Glad you came
same
back.
place. It is a bit nostalgic that way, and I think when you have the opportunity, it's the best way to end a Star Wars anything with that group portrait. A little snapshot of the heroes.
Oh, it's so good. I can't. 2009. My goodness. Crazy. I was 9 years old or 10 years old. Crazy days. What's the next one? Rookies. Rookies. Are you sure? Where's Sin? This is like one of Sin's favorite episodes. Where is he? I mean, should I? Someone at Sin City. Someone go chase him up in the Discord or something. But Rookies, this is a classic one. But yeah, Second Sons, you were just saying, yeah, some of these episodes were just so iconic, aren't they? They're just so iconic. They're so good. So good. Oh, thank you, Double A. Appreciate that. Yeah. 24 now, but I still feel like I'm about 10 years old. But that's the way to live, isn't it? Way to live. All right, let's get into it. Rookies. Let's go. Great episode.
My designation is Trooper 27-5555, sir. We call him Fives. I'm Heavy. This is Echo. Looks like we got ourselves a batch of
Crazy.
shinies, Commander.
They're so young.
Shinies, sir? That's right. Your armor. It's shiny and new. Just like you.
Rookies was almost a break in the schedule because Rookies features clones. And what's really, really nice about clones from a production standpoint is it's the same guy with a new hairdo or maybe a different facial tattoo or beard or something. It's up to the voice actors to sort of bring the different
Voice actors, plural?
individual personalities out.
Sentry, do you copy?
It's just D, isn't it?
Interference from the medias? I don't see him down there, Sarge.
Our fantastic voice actor, D. Baker, brought him to life.
You wanted excitement, Heavy. Right. Ooh, media shower.
D and I talked about giving each clone kind of a thing.
So
and this is who
good.
they are. So that we
I haven't
try to
actually
make
seen
really
the
new
micro series of
characters.
Clone Wars. No,
One of them is just kind of really into his own books and studying protocol.
I can catch up on the rig manuals.
That's really maintenance clone.
Thank you, Ballista.
Leave him alone. They kept him in his growth jar too long.
Justin Ridge does beautiful pinup art. Because these guys were alone hanging on a space station, I said, well, why don't you do some of your pinup girl art and we'll throw it on the wall.
Oh my
These
God.
guys
I never
have
even
nothing
noticed
better
that.
to do. So we should, again, a personality for the clone, that they're not just so pristine and clean that they would put posters up or be listening to the radio, Armed Forces
Yeah, we
radio.
should.
That was kind of cool.
You're listening to the Grand Army of the Republic broadcast.
In a lot of the early episodes, we did not have a lot of assets. An asset is anything like a vehicle or character.
You
a
betcha.
location.
This is the start of the
So
series.
we had to
Start of the series.
reuse a lot of things. We had to be creative. We
I
had a
mean,
Betty Droid.
probably like mid next
so
year,
we
probably
used
like
her as a VJ, just to
spring
get
spring
across
next
the
year.
Armed Forces radio personality.
Yeah, I've never
The
seen them.
voice
How
of
crazy.
the Outer Rim.
But if you look closely, you'll see some of the things the same way you saw things repurposed in the old movies.
There was plenty of new stuff in Rookies as well. The planet itself, the Rishi moon, was brand new.
Don't forget about those giant eels.
The Rishi eel is brand new, the thing that eats one of the clones.
Yeah, I've never seen.
There was also the base itself, which was another Tang Li design. And that's another instance of, once we have this thing, you're going to see it again, which is great because it makes perfect sense. If the Republic have designed and constructed one base, they're going to design and build multiples of pretty much the same thing. So you'll see at least parts of that base in other episodes, and it doesn't feel like a cheat. It actually feels right that this is, this
That
is
was my
the
birthday a
standard
few days
issue
ago, on the
Republic
16th.
hardware. This is the way they build their stuff. The only thing about the base that was not brand new were the boxes, which is kind of a running joke with the crew because it's the same box. That box is on Skytop Station. That box is on the Rishi base. The box is in the bases on Christoph's. I mean, that box has been around. I know it drives Andrew Harrison nuts because the box is meant to be a circle on the inside, but if you don't hit subdivide, it becomes a hexagon. And depending on who's rendering it, sometimes it's a circle, sometimes it isn't. It's just, I'm telling you, that box is just the gift.
No
that
way.
keeps
What a
giving.
random
One
random
great aspect
detail.
of this story, and it became clear pretty quickly that there were not going to be Jedi in it, at least in the action. When we work with the Jedi, it's very difficult because they are so powerful that it's hard to get convincing situations where you go, well, let's just use the Force, right? Why don't they just mind trick the guy? Or that problem went away in this episode. We just had the clones. The clones are, it's easy to
Just silly
identify
little
with their
box.
limitations.
This way, hurry!
Yeah, nice Ballista. Yeah, there's an October
The
ganger.
rookies are vulnerable because you don't know how many of them are going to live. Is one becoming a major character? Are they reoccurring characters? Which one's going to die?
Sarge!
The regular battle droids, the goofy ones,
The clones are fleeing, cowards.
are a very first generation thing. They're droids of a bygone era. They were just protecting transports. They weren't really meant for war.
We've run into some difficulties.
We wanted to show an evolution of these battle droids. Because the war got more intense, there would be ones that were more evil, more calculating. We wanted them to be a real threat. We wanted to know that there was peril for the clones, for the Jedi when these guys were around.
The commando droids in Clone Wars are very consciously a hybrid of the standard battle droid and a super battle droid.
Their proportions are more human. They can talk and change their voice.
Open, comlink channel.
The main point with the commando droids was that they could credibly fit inside clone armor because they had to be disguised as clones.
I have a bad feeling about this.
For the most part, it works fine. There's one problem. Commando droids only have 2 fingers. But there are scenes in the episode where they're wearing clone gloves and have 5 fingers. Commando droids magically somehow grow 5 fingers when they put on clone armor and then go back to just being regular droid-handed droids in any other circumstance. Go figure.
Oh, Rags! Just as I thought.
Battle droids seem like Revolutionary War soldiers, just sort of marching forward into battle and just shooting and getting shot, but commando droids behave more like guerrilla fighters. So we wanted to sort of give them a little more subtle, not so gear grinding type, motor sounds. Their sounds sound intentionally subdued and muffled, to sort of give them a little more of a quiet presence.
They're obviously more intelligent. They're substantially faster. It raises the question, why don't the Separatists just use hundreds and thousands of these guys, they would win the war rather easily. And obviously, a more sophisticated droid is more expensive to make. It's hard to manufacture. But in the episode, if you watch, I mean, they're not invulnerable either. They lose the base. And then actually a larger squad of regular battle droids actually takes the base back over.
We can't protect the outpost long against that army of clankers.
So it shows you that while dim-witted, the original battle droids are still a threat.
Fall back to the opposite. Move!
At the end of Rookies, there's the clone that sort of stays behind as the base is being raided towards the end of the episode.
Oh, yeah.
And he's got that Gatling gun. His gun jams on him, and they've rigged the place to blow, and all the droids have kind of come in, and just as he's going to go to blow the thing up, he gets shot. And then we kind of like go out of the music at that moment. And then like sort of all you hear is his heartbeat.
Do we take prisoners?
When we get those moments, we really like to you play that up to really just focus in on what's happening. Click. I don't.
So well done. It's so good, eh? Oh, amazing. I'm loving these so far. I know Dave is he's so smart. He answers everything, eh? It's perfect. On to the next. What's the one after this? Downfall of a Droid. Let's go. Not some of my favorite episodes. I don't love these episodes, to be honest.
Gold Squadron, Titan formation. Slow approach. Let's draw them in.
Yes, sir.
Don't worry, R2. Grievous is falling right into our trap.
When I think about Star Wars, an iconic element is always the space battle. I think that every kid I've ever known,
That's really interesting.
from age
I'm like,
8 and up, has probably imagined he was in Luke's
100%,
X-Wing
100%.
assaulting the Death Star.
This is Red 5. I'm going in.
We really wanted to explore different kinds of space battles in the Clone Wars too. And this was a great opportunity to have a capital ship battle with fighters amidst the asteroid field. We haven't seen that before in Star Wars.
Ahsoka, they're in position. Unveil our little surprise.
Right away, Master. Rex, old boy, it's time you join the party.
I really hope we get a behind the scenes for Ahsoka.
That opening battle sequence was interesting because we had very few assets.
So
we wanted to have something that was a really dynamic battle. And so one of the things that we did have was the ATTE tank. So we said, how can we make this battle really interesting? We thought, why not have the tanks be deployed in outer space, set up on these asteroids, and used to ambush.
It's amazing,
Grievous.
isn't it?
General, we've been outflanked.
All units, fire at will.
This is too easy.
This episode was a great opportunity to explore Anakin's problem with attachments. Specifically, his relationship with R2-D2. I'm sure he's kind of like his best friend.
And George always says that R2's like that. He's like the family dog. So
when R2 gets lost, Anakin is determined to find him at any cost.
There's a scene I like where Anakin and Obi-Wan are talking, and Anakin's trying to convince Obi-Wan to let him go after R2.
I could take a squad out there, track him down.
Anakin, it's only a droid. You know attachment is not acceptable for a Jedi.
I wanted to shoot across Anakin and pick up Ahsoka watching this conversation. And I wanted to show that she's kind of studying these two, Anakin and Obi-Wan, and she's trying to sort out, well, these are both very good Jedi, which is the correct path here. And she
That's so
comes to
interesting.
Anakin's support.
What possessed you not to erase that droid's memory?
Master Obi-Wan, sometimes R2 having that extra information has come in handy.
Well, then find that droid, Anakin. Our necks might very well depend on it.
Right away, Master.
I feel like that's a theme that's like connected into like what Ahsoka was in the show. Hey, Max.
We went through a couple of different designs for Vulture's Claw, but the one that got picked works best because of its paint job, and the paint job
So deep.
was
It's so
inspired by a dump
insane.
truck driving down the road one day. which was green and blue and really rusty and oily. And even though the design itself was done independently of a dump truck, the colors that the ship ended up being were based pretty much directly on one specific dump truck.
Ugh, what's that smell?
Garnacht. I forgot about this guy.
Was a fun character. He was a different kind of sleazy to Grievous. You know, he wasn't sort of the evil, conniving. He was just greedy.
I've got the merchandise you're looking for. Maybe it is worth more than we negotiate.
So good.
I think Garnacht was probably the first character where there was a conscious choice to make an asymmetrical face. It's much easier to build one half of a head, flip it, stitch it together, and use that as your model. But with Garnacht, just to sort of show how sort of corrupt and, you know, untrustworthy this guy was, we wanted to have some sort of physical representation of how sort of twisted he was. That would just tell you pretty much straight away that this was a bad guy. Yeah, he was one of the bad guys.
There is something weird in this episode, though, that I had nothing to do with, and you had nothing to do with. And I always say that I'm going to give credit where credit's due. And that's when Garnacht comes through the portal. Not from here. I
don't remember that. That's hilarious.
Safe to say the sound team.
This was bad.
Yeah, you go ahead. You talked to Matt Wood. You asked him about it. Oh, did I say it?
Of course, he mentioned the fart, didn't he?
You put him on a hot seat about that. He'll completely deny it, and he's a very cool customer. But you can get Dave Acorn in here, too.
That's so good.
You can crack him.
That's not gonna be easy.
Now let's see how much I have here.
We have a fart track that we just sort of kind of
right
up and down throughout the episodes.
No.
Oh, brother.
Hey, Paul, how you doing? Oh my god. I never even realized that from this episode. That's amazing. Let's keep going, because this arc is like the same, so, you know, might as well keep back to back. That's so cool. We are almost at 4K, Ben. What are we at? We're at... How do I show that?
Skytop Station, which is the
We're at
separatist outpost.
3994.
Pretty much the
insane.
core ball from the
3994.
Federation Star Cruiser with a bunch of new
Crazy.
sort of radar dishes and antenna and stuff. The choice was made to have the antenna sort of stick downwards, just make it sort of interesting looking. Everyone expects the antenna to come up out of the roof, but it just sort of made it look more sinister and different. A certain amount of it was sort of down and dirty. It's really only one corridor over and over again.
Thanks,
the sort of
Marek.
newer
Nice.
piece that was
Appreciate
designed
it, man.
specifically for the episode was the storage room where
Are
Grievous
we having a
confronts
party at
Ahsoka.
4K?
Yeah.
I don't know. You tell me. Think we should? I think we should.
It is full of droid parts and pipes and, you know, recessed floor lighting and everything. Really spooky, though. It worked out really well.
Oh, what a 4K.
The hangar was new too, Skytop Station hangar, which we're going to see a lot in other ships over and over again. That fight scene at the end with the vulture droids dropping from the ceiling was also a really nicely staged action set piece. Just a nice sense of that sort of mayhem that you get in the movies, translating nicely to the TV.
We'd seen R2 with all these robotic attachments,
You think
saw
so?
arms, and
You think so?
interface probes,
I don't know.
and we thought it'd be really great to actually see him in battle with another R2 droid.
Yeah.
So.
R2 was the third character that I designed for the show. And when I say designed, it's like very grandiose. All I did was design for
hang
the
on.
show.
Homeworld Nubia. Homeworld? Nubia. That's so random. Was it part of a core world? Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. Well, the reason I know Nubian is like it's a new. What is it? Part of the. That's Padme's ship type, Nubian, isn't it? That's so interesting. That's where he was made. I never knew that. I guess that makes sense. Because the ship is Nubian, but it's not Naboo. It's Nubia. But apparently a lot of like tech is built there. So interesting. It's a part of it's in the core worlds sector of the Corellian sector. Interesting. Damn. I did not know that. That is cool. It's cool.
When I say designed, it's like very grandiose. All I did was take the existing design, which is pretty much perfect, and simplify it down a little bit. But R2 has always been one of my personal favorite characters. There's something about the real R2D2 paint scheme that just works. I think it's because it's so simple. It almost looks like a superhero outfit with just the color across the chest. We do try and stay vigilant with R2 as well. Like we really try to make sure that the claw arm comes out of the right compartment and that the periscope is coming out of the right shape in the head. We're lucky because now the movies have all come and gone. We can incorporate every single thing that R2 does, so he's even more of a Swiss Army knife than he was in any one of the movies. I'm sure he can do more. I don't know what it is. We'll have to wait and see.
Come on, R2.
R2 is just fun to watch. It's amazing that something that simple could have that much character, because it really is just a cylinder with a dome on top.
Keep moving, please, bud.
But for some reason, everyone seems to get into R2. The animators really enjoy working with R2.
3995.
So really fun to just get to see him, involved
Five
in some
more.
swashbuckling,
Five more, baby.
which is pretty fun.
Goldie.
Goldie.
Black and gold because my brother
you,
and I
Goldie.
are Steelers
Sorry.
fans, and here was an astromech. It was the
I
first
feel
one we
like
got
that's
to
a
do that
good,
wasn't
a
R2,
perfect
and I
time to
wanted
swear.
to become
You know
black
what I
and
mean?
gold.
Tries to kill Anakin.
And then he's a traitor.
Stubby little backstabber.
Well, maybe he knows that Anakin turns out to be Darth Vader. Maybe he's just ahead of the game. Maybe you didn't think about that.
No.
Yeah,
The premise of
yeah,
the story
that's
was
it,
one of the
that's
first
it.
premises I thought about. It's kind of in the surreal tradition of the evil twin. I thought it'd be great to have R2D2 have an evil twin.
Matt Wood and Dave Acorn, they gave him a different little sound than R2. He sounds a little
It
bit
is absolutely
off-kilter.
Kygo. Right.
He's sort of aloof
F-Goldie.
sounding. I think his voice is
Never did look
everything
like
that
a drill.
all the sounds. He sounds like he's just sort of whistling to himself.
Are you trying to get us killed?
That sort of becomes creepy by the part 2 when you realize he's actually, trying to kill everybody.
Right.
And then that's sort of like is really weird and kind of creepy.
Ahsoka tries to sell the audience are really rooting for this guy. But then he is kind of a diabolical, little brat droid.
You think R3's gonna open up that door anytime soon?
He's working on it. Patience, Captain.
I like when she talks to Anakin.
100%.
Did
I
he
was
tell
just
you your
thinking that.
stubby little gold droid pal works for him?
So
Might have
janky.
mentioned it. I guess we were all fooled.
And he just kind of shoots her that look. And the animators did great with just that look, like, I told you the whole time this kid was trouble, There's something about seeing those two droids fighting each other that is really fantastic.
I mean, originally that battle, I think, went on for 3 pages. I just couldn't stop it. They were fighting on catwalks and leaping off and
lasers, gas jets.
It was great.
You must be General Grievous. He's just another tinny boys. Let's scrap him like the rest.
We had a really interesting situation where Ahsoka crosses swords with General Grievous. George very specifically said that she's a Padawan. She wouldn't be afraid of Grievous. I remember that. She is very adept. She's very quick. Her size is an advantage.
That doesn't mean she could stand.
Doesn't mean that
toe-to-toe
she
with
would
him.
beat him, but she's been trained for these situations to fight.
Sorry to interrupt your playtime, Grumpy, but wouldn't you prefer a challenge?
That wouldn't be you.
He almost
Good
toyed with
comeback.
her to an extent
Gotta say,
because
good
she is
comeback.
small
That
and
wouldn't
he
be
wants
you.
to kill her over a longer period
Fair
of
enough.
time. But it was very important that he at one point gets her and has her at lightsaber point. You show that she's not going to win this fight. She's only going to
Amazing.
be able to escape it.
And she knows pretty quickly that she's
Amazing,
gonna have
man. Yeah, have a
time.
great
That's all
night,
she's
man.
doing.
We're gonna
Just
stream
buying
tomorrow, so I
time.
might see you
She
around.
might very well die.
And,
It's
continue
just a
the
matter of
stream.
survival for
Have a
that
great
girl
night.
against an opponent like Grievous, unless Anakin is there and they can fight him together. But of course, Anakin can't meet General Grievous.
All right, Tim. We'll see you later, Tim.
General Grievous. You're shorter than I expected.
In Revenge of the Sith, we realize that this is the first time they've ever met each other face to face. So here you have a situation where you have two major characters in the Clone War that can never really meet. They have fought each other, fighter to fighter, but never face to face. It is a challenge because I would like to see that fight of Anakin versus Grievous. Given Obi-Wan's performance against Grievous in Revenge of the Sith, I believe Anakin would take out Grievous fairly easily. It's sad in some ways that the best that we can do with Anakin and Grievous is have Grievous exit one door and it close while the other door opens and Anakin comes out. That they're always, perhaps that close, like ships passing in the night, never really encountering each other till Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, I love that. It's so true though. It's such a random fact that they have never met in the Clone Wars. Kind of nuts. And the fact that they've been so close to each other since season 1. Insane. I don't know how they did it. On to the next. Bombad Jedi. Oh, this is such a fun episode. This is going to be a good one.
If those droids attacking us, Padme's probably in trouble.
My lady gave us very specific instructions to remain here.
General Grievous and Ahsoka. No way.
He must have happened trying saving her.
Jar Jar Binks, have you got
How beautiful is that? It's so beautiful, isn't it? Ships passing in
Here we go. Bombad Jedi. Obviously
music.
from the title, Jar Jar Binks is in the show.
Love this music.
This was the first Jar Jar episode.
Random music.
So there was a lot of pressure. George George wanted us to bring back Jar Jar.
Misa, no think so.
These are swamp dwellers just like Misa. I will convince them of our good fellowship.
I think early on, George expressed an interest that because we were in this time period of the Clone Wars, that he wanted to see Jar Jar again. And
I got sin.
Henry Gilroy and I thought, well,
14-hour
perhaps an
day.
animated
My
venue,
goodness.
Like
Relax.
the Clone Wars is
Don't
gonna, fit
feel like
really
you need to
well
be
for our
here,
friend
but,
Jar
I don't
Jar.
know. Eat some food or something. Relax, man. We're so
Jar
glad
Jar
you're here.
works as a cartoon so
But I think
so
a few.
well.
We're probably
It's
6 episodes in.
unbelievable. And
It's gonna be a long
arguably
stream. We're
because
gonna be
he
here
was
for a
pretty
while.
much a cartoon to begin with, but it didn't take much to make him look like he had been designed for the Clone Wars in the first place. He's just got very exaggerated proportions and exaggerated features, and the way he moves and the way he sounds is very sort of broad anyway.
Well, that's the end of our ship. Typical.
Introducing 3PO alongside Jar Jar became very interesting because we took one of the classic characters who had a lot of good comedic moments in the original trilogy
Come back at once. You haven't finished with me yet.
with Jar Jar, who was, the comedy in The Phantom Menace. And having them interact became very interesting. It's kind of like this old and this new idea. And 3PO at times is not very keen on the way Jar Jar behaves or how Jar Jar is.
I don't think that requires translation.
Almost in some ways representing some of the older fans and how they feel about Jar Jar versus the newer fans and how they feel about Jar Jar. So maybe that parallel will, help some people see perhaps some good in Jar Jar.
He's okay, Threeso. He's
So that's the classic one when he calls him Threeso.
It was a major plot point that Jar
so
Jar wear
good.
a robe and be mistaken for a Jedi, so that was one of the earlier sort of shows where you would see one person wearing a cloak for a great deal of time.
Jedi? Jedi? Where's a Jedi?
The time it takes to render that stuff out and the cost of simulating the cloth is really a reason why you don't see it too much.
Forget surrender.
I think Jar Jar wears the robe quite well.
And actually, I tried to, again, pay homage to A New Hope, where the droids have cornered Jar Jar and they're shooting at him, and he seems to vanish from beneath his cloak, as we saw Obi-Wan do in his
Oh my
battle with
God,
Darth
so
Vader.
true. So true.
You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, man.
So the
we're,
idea
we're 5
was
away.
probably
We're 5
They've done
away.
it better.
Bombad Jedi was the first time
Oh
we
my
saw
God,
Newt
3
Gunray
away.
in the show.
We're 3
Where
away.
is Senator
Where are we?
Amidala?
Oh my
I
goodness.
really like them.
Is it going to happen this stream?
Anyway, I think they're kind of fun. They're actually sort of interesting villains for the Jedi because they aren't warriors.
Oh,
They're not
sin.
sick. They're not
Also,
necessarily
I got a
scary. There's
notification
just
for it
lots
this
of
time.
them.
How good.
And,
I love it.
They're
That
very
is
sort
the
of
first
greedy
time
and
it's
scheming.
popped up
and
for
I
me.
think that Gunray
Sin
always
gives them
looked
5
interesting.
memberships. I
did
love
especially
it.
like
Thanks
his
so much.
episode 2
Appreciate you.
look, with
the
this sort of
greatest. You're
crazy,
wonderful.
bizarre headdress thing, and then what looks like an orange knitted cardigan on top of what looks like a leather jacket. I mean, it's pretty
legal?
out there. So when we decided that that was going to be the outfit that Gunray would wear, at least for now in the show, I was pretty happy because I always thought that that was one of the funnier looking pieces of clothing that anyone had shown up in at all.
Shall we go?
His skin color matches what he looks like in the movie. Tim Brock even painted veins into the skin. There's a degree of realism to the Gunray paint scheme that you wouldn't get with a human character, but it works because he's so bizarre looking anyway. If Gunray isn't your favorite Nemoidian, just hold on. There's more on the way.
Two more. We're at 3998.
And then there's Rhodia, which was a big deal because Rhodia is where Rhodians are from, and we'd seen Greedo in episode 4, so we knew what Rhodians looked like, but we hadn't seen their home planet before. It was pretty wide open. Like, we knew that Rhodia would be steamy and tropical, and that it would be a fairly lush planet, but beyond that, there was no sort of hard and fast rules. At first, it looked more like Thailand and Angkor Wat
100%.
or Cambodia. It had sort of Middle Eastern influences for a
I
while.
love
Just
you,
nailing
Gunray. Give
down
me a Gunray
Rhodia
show.
turned out
Oh,
to be pretty
we're
challenging.
one away.
It's
We're
not really
one
evident in
away.
the episode,
Oh
but
my
the
God.
idea with Rhodia is that the
nuts.
plants grow backwards. The glowing fruit that you see is the roots of the tree, and then the bigger leaves that are underneath the water where Jar Jar is swimming around are the actual bulk
One
of
away.
the
I don't know
plant.
what to
It's
do
just
when we hit
growing
4.
downwards.
That was kind of a first big new planet.
Another
we
5.
went
Oh
on
my
besides
God,
Teth.
Sin, you're on a roll,
At
brother.
least in our production, where that was
God.
kind of a big deal to be doing this big
Thank you, Sin. Appreciate it.
kind of swamp planet with big domed cities.
We spent all this time sort of figuring out roughly what Rhodia was going to look like, and then at the very last minute, Dave told us that George envisioned Rhodia as having bubbles or domes over all of its cities all the time.
I have a very bad feeling about this.
Welcome to the Separatist way, Senator.
Viceroy Gunray's orders.
But I really wanted to approach the story as a fairy tale.
She's up in that tower?
You went to a lot of myth and
Yeah, the classic fairy
elements of
tale
it.
elements, right? And
The dragon in the castle.
Thanks,
exactly.
Sin.
The castle here, we've got Padme, who's our damsel in distress.
Oh no! Oh no, he
Uncle
went down
Otto,
one.
don't
Who
do this.
unsubscribed?
You could say
So she's a
Who
lot more active.
unsubscribed?
Oh, she's definitely not going to end up as the damsel in distress. But she's locked in the tower by the evil king, who you might think is
yeah.
Gunray.
It's from the
And then you've
it's on
got,
YouTube. We're watching this
C-3PO
from.
as the
It's
faithful
from the
handmaiden.
DVDs. Yeah.
3PO.
Mistress Padme, oh, thank the Maker you're safe.
And Dave kind of read the script. He goes, "You're missing the dragon."
Yeah.
And that was the inspiration for the
Yes,
Quadrama.
DB. Who the hell
Quadrama,
unsubscribed?
Yeah, the creature that lives underneath the.
That's
the
right, the
castle.
creature.
And it was kind of an old Russell Chong retake on a McQuarrie design from, I think, as far back as Dagobah.
There's a bad boogie monster down there.
And Jar Jar is the court jester who ends up in the suit of armor of the knight. Obviously, in our episode, it's not an actual suit of armor, but
Right.
usually when the fool ends up in the knight's armor, everybody wants to kill him. And we have the same elements in the story.
And that plays right along with what the fans think.
You're either the bravest or the most foolish Jedi I have ever met.
I'm just a Gungan, and I don't think I'm either.
So good. Loving it. Amazing. Cloak of Darkness. What's this one? Oh, yeah.
Captain, have you made contact with a cruiser?
Yes, General.
I think I remember this one. I
Cloak
think.
of Darkness was the first time we saw Luminara as a character. I mean, even though
Luminara.
she shows up in the movies and the live action, she has a few action
Holy
scenes,
shit, coming in
doesn't
with
have any dialogue, and we don't really know anything about her.
This
Oh
is
my
General
God.
Luminara Unduli requesting
Thank you
permission
so
to
much,
land.
Rattle Shark.
You are cleared,
Whoa.
General. We await your
Coming
prisoner's
in
arrival.
hot. Thank you so much for the birthday wish. Appreciate it. With the
Design-wise, Luminara was
Dollary
interesting
dude.
because
My
the live-action
God.
costume is made up of
Thank you so
many
much.
layers of
Appreciate
great
that.
cloth.
That means so
And
much,
that
man.
would be just a very difficult thing to pull
It
off.
keeps
because
me
cloth
going
is
here. It
one of
keeps
those
me here.
very
It keeps me able to like keep hanging out with
render-intensive
you guys
things.
and doing this stuff. So I appreciate that so much. My
So
goodness.
the designer Tang Li had to come up with a way
Thanks
to
for
keep
the
the
chat
feel
for
of the
Rattle.
Luminara
Amazing.
outfit, but make it much simpler, cut down the layers of cloth, and figure out a way to keep the shape really simple and graphic, which he did by sort of stripping down the top section.
It was 2 days ago. It was my birthday on the
and a
16th.
skirt with a sort of tabard on the front, and it works really well.
Thank you.
You will stay here with Captain Ergias.
kind of a nice little mixing thing that Juan Peralta, our mixer, did in Cloak of Darkness, where Ventress is planting the little explosive charges all over the engine core. So she's force jumping all over the place, and there's these little like wishes of her body jumping,
We have
or the
4K?
little arrow-like toss of the charges flying through the air. And all the while, we're kind of focused on the little patrol droid that's kind of wandering around, and he kind of hear these things going on, but he doesn't quite know what it is. But in the surrounds, you kind of hear these things kind of zipping all over around you.
Hey,
like,
you're
she's
right.
just planning like
Oh my
dozens
God.
of these charges.
Look at that.
kind
It
of
looks
like,
so crazy.
like the way he filled the
4K.
space with all
What the
those
hell?
sounds.
What the hell,
We had an
man?
interesting
What are you all doing
situation in
here?
Cloak of Darkness where
That's so
Ahsoka
cool. Well, we
was
have to.
assigned
This won't be
to
the 4K.
with Luminara.
This won't be the 4K stream.
Luminara wasn't
But
expecting
we'll have
this,
another one celebrating
young girl
that. That
who's
is
a bit more
insane. Thank you so
brash.
much, everyone.
Ahsoka definitely says what she
4K.
wants.
Tell us what we want to
Insane.
know right now, or I will gut you like a Rokarian dirtfish.
Oh man, that's insane. 4K. 4K of you. That is nuts. What are you all doing? What are you all doing here? But honestly, like, I mean, I'll say this we'll do an extra stream this week, but it's such a privilege to do this and hang out with you guys and to have you guys here. It is amazing. It's such a pleasure. This is like absolute dream come true. And I just can't thank you enough for everyone's support doing this. It's such a good time. It's such a good time to be a Star Wars fan. Coming in with $7 dues. Ballista coming in, really enjoying the stream. Usually I struggle to chat in big groups, but I feel comfy here, loving the vibes. Keep it real, Hannah. May the force be with you. May the force be with you, Ballista. I appreciate it. Yeah, my favorite thing is that you guys are my co-hosts. And I love to hear what you guys have to say through these streams. So I appreciate you being here. And thank you so much for the $7 dues. CG as well, Master CG, coming in with the $2 dues. Damn, I didn't know Luminara had a PVR. Neither did I. I didn't catch that. Does she? Excuse me. Does she? That's nuts. That's nuts. But thank you for the $2 dues about it. Appreciate it, everyone. Thank you for the 4K celebrations. It is insane. The race of 4K in the description is epic. Oh, I should do that. I should do that. Thank you, Sin. I appreciate it. Yeah, I have a chest infection at the moment, by the way. I'm good, but not good. My chest is not good, but I'm fine, though. It's like, I'm okay. Thank you, Lightning. I appreciate that. It is a community of legends. It's all because of you guys. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Padawan, terror is not a weapon the Jedi use.
So you get to see a contrast in the way that Luminara sees Ahsoka compared to Anakin sees Ahsoka.
If it isn't the hairless harpy.
If it isn't Skywalker's
Not
filthy,
pneumonia, it's just
obnoxious
cough. It's all
little
good.
pet.
I'm all good.
Ventress
I'm
and
fine.
Ahsoka in the end have a lot of things in common. They're both trying to impress their masters. They're both, students. Ventress just happens to be older
my
than
God.
Ahsoka and
Coming
farther
in,
down
Lady
in her
Jennifer
training.
Snow
So she's
with
more powerful than Ahsoka.
$20 dues. Congrats on 4K.
Padawan.
Thank you so much. My gosh, thank you so much for your generosity. Appreciate that so much. It means a lot. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Luminara's lightsaber in this episode is not actually Luminara's lightsaber, it's Plo Koon's. Luminara's lightsaber is pretty much Plo Koon's, but it's gold-plated at the base.
Oh my God.
Plo's is silver all the way through. And this is just one of those TV schedule things. We knew it was wrong, but we also knew it was close enough that anyone but a truly hardcore Luminara fan is not going to notice. She does get it eventually, though, so because we knew she was going to come back, we did sort of make the effort to give her the proper lightsaber.
Greetings, General. We have the brig all ready for this.
Rebel leader.
traitor.
You betcha.
Very good, Captain.
Oh, this guy.
Command agree?
Remember this
Let's get
guy?
underway.
The Senate commanders that we have wear clone armor that's painted blue because we didn't have at that time a lot of modeling ability for every episode. So we reused the body armor, leg armor. We added a big kind of scarab shell to the side of the commandos to give them a different look. And they got their classic helmet from Phantom Menace, the big blue helmet.
Your boldness has saved our people, Your Majesties.
We didn't want to use clones because we wanted these Senate guards to be a bit more elite, a bit more independent. And also at that time, we weren't really ready for the concept of a clone traitor.
I can't disobey a direct order and leave my post, can I?
I wouldn't.
We thought at that point it was more believable to think that someone that was not a clone would be a traitor, and that he would have more ambition than a clone would, who would be very loyal to the Republic he was serving.
Count Dooku is paying me a fortune to deliver your slimy carcass, so please try to stay alive.
This guy was so
It also
annoying.
helped introduce the fact that there were soldiers who were not clones in the Clone War, which I think is kind of key, that there were people that were kind of a holdover from the old Republic, which is obviously the Republic Guards, but that they're groomed to be elite Emperor's Royal Guards later. So there's this thread of these kind of characters that show up that might be different than clones and have their own, their own desires, their own plans on what they want to do.
Why'd you do it, Argaius?
A clone like you would never understand. I wanted a life with more than empty servitude. Sometimes being a good soldier means doing what you think is right.
I feel like a random spot to end that end that one, but so cool. That guy was so annoying though. Oh my god, I'm missing so much in the chat. Oh my god. Oh my god. Birchurch coming with the £5 congrats on 4K. Q Symphony in the Stars to celebrate. I should, eh? Do you have a favorite Clone Wars arc? Probably favorite Clone Wars arc. Probably Ahsoka leaving the Jedi Order. Probably that one. I don't know what it's kind of called, but Ahsoka leaving. It's pretty probably my favorite one, I think. Even though that's like the most depressed I've ever felt in my life. But probably that one. Or Umbara. Umbara is very, very good. But thank you so much for the £5. Brian coming in with another $5 due. Sometimes small groups are better. The race side and Hannah always popping. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, it's always a good time. You guys make it the good time, though. So I appreciate you being here. Absolutely. I think Ventress is totally underrated for being such an amazing character and super strong in the Force and abilities. Yeah, true. I agree. I would have liked to see her probably. I think she should have been in the kind of the final seasons of Clone Wars, probably more or something. I don't know. It's cool. Paul came aboard during Ahsoka and likes the community. Thank you so much, Paul, for the $2 dues. I'm so glad. Yeah, so many of you came through Ahsoka, and I'm glad you've settled in here, found your place, and enjoying the ride. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thank you, BT. Yeah, just hit 4K. Just hit it. Insane. Me too. I cried like a baby. Christmas meat in the chat. All right, Lair of Grievous. Oh my god, this is a hilarious episode, actually. Yes, that was a good one.
Welcome home, General. I'm afraid I must request your surrender.
In the EU, there were a lot of stories about Grievous, that he was an incredible general that got shot down by Dooku in a shuttle and then re-engineered by Dooku to fight as a general. And we talked about that stuff. I mean, it was in a Visionaries comic book that wasn't canon. It's just a possibility. The question is, why would a great general allow himself to be sabotaged, rebuild as a robot, and then just become subservient to someone like Dooku?
There is concern you have lost your focus.
So we called George up, and he came over, and we said, what do you think about Grievous? What's his backstory? Because this is what we heard. George had a lot of ideas about where he thought Grievous came from and what he thought Grievous was about. One of the things that George mentioned was that he had really wanted to be a Jedi.
But he wasn't Force sensitive. He wasn't able to use the Force. He knew he could never be a Sith Lord.
And his rejection of Jedi status drove him to have modifications done to his body.
These must be trophies taken from the Jedi he's murdered.
But we still elected to keep it kind of ambiguous. Some of the best stuff is because we don't take that mask off and show you what's under there.
You might have been a proud warrior once, but now you are just on in Dooku's game. I wield great power.
Takuchi-san directed this episode, and that was a real treat for me because it was amazing watching him work. He storyboarded his whole episode really quickly, and he designed our adaptation of Grievous and the Battle Droids and the Super Battle Droid, the Twilight.
Grievous's pet, Gore.
Gore. Yeah, the big dog.
Yeah, who meets a unpleasant end.
Yeah. Just the design of Grievous, Killian Plunkett did a great array of drawings of Grievous before he was a robot. The statues also show a progression of Grievous as almost as these Olympian-like statues as he descends further and further into the robotic realm of his body and his build.
This was a great chance to show another side to Grievous by showing where he lives.
Nadar! Congratulations on passing the trials.
You were Mistmaster, but it is an honor to finally serve beside you as a knight.
Nadar Veb is based on a very, very popular design from the original trilogy, Admiral Akbar, who is a Mon Calamari. Nadar was designed overseas. He was designed by Studio IG, and there is a sort of subtle but very distinct Japanese feel to his character. They took elements of the Admiral Akbar costume and really cleverly adapted just the collar and the cuffs of the sleeves and stuff, so it felt.
So how interesting was
somewhat
that
like
about
Akbar,
Grievous?
but also was
Grievous
very
wanted to be a
credibly
Jedi?
outfit.
Interesting.
We wanted to show that even some Jedi are starting to fall under the temptation to use power to try to win the war. And that's not the Jedi way.
I didn't forget to teach you restraint, did I, my old Padawan?
Nadar kind of
How
is
the
a
hell did
representation
Nadar
of where
pass
some
the
of the
test? Let's
younger
be real.
Jedi are
How the
going.
hell did he
In
pass
this
that
war, strength prevails.
Yeah, sorry, I was getting a little
rules
snack,
change.
a little snacky.
Perhaps
I'm just having some Greek
changed.
yogurt and some honey.
Kifis is
I
a little
can't
more
really show you. I'm
experienced.
gonna
He
pour
was
it out.
trying
Greek
to
yogurt.
guide Nadar, but he stopped short of
Hell
really
yeah,
getting
but
involved
what are you?
because Nadar has to make his own choices, you know, and it leads to Nadar's downfall.
Yeah, he was kind of a jerk, right? Nadar.
No. Kit Fisto is interesting because he's one of those characters who
Lance?
changes pretty radically from his movie appearances. The episode 2 makeup
does,
is
doesn't
quite different to the episode 3 makeup. It's a
Oh, I
different
love that
color,
photo.
His eyes are a
It's
different
so
shape.
different.
He's got fangs. For several reasons, it seemed to go
I love
more
it.
towards the
I love
episode
it.
2 design. He just looks a little friendlier and a little more upbeat, and it fit with the type of character that Dave had in mind.
We talked about his lighthearted nature. He's very fun. He's having a good old time in the Clone War. Obviously, in the middle of the arena, he smiles, sees 3PO, everything's funny. He's not really seeing how horrible everything around him is.
He's a fun
That's so
character.
true.
It's a very sort
Why
of
is he so
unusual
chirpy?
silhouette because his head is so big relative to his body.
Classic.
We ended up making his chin bigger at least twice and possibly 3 times because he just didn't look heroic enough. The top of his head is so big that we had to sort of keep extending his jawline to make him seem as dashing and debonair as Kit Fisto really should be. What we did have to do with Kit Fisto was shave his head because we didn't know how many tentacles were on this thing. I'm not sure that the Clone Wars Kit Fisto really has as many tentacles as he should have, but it's pretty close.
Stand firm. There might be worse things here than Grievous.
Doctor, where are you? Don't be upset with me, Master. If you were a better fighter, we would not be having this conversation.
Dave Filoni really wanted to put us in a scene together, and the Lair of Grievous was a great one for that.
Matt Wood's Grievous. And so now Dave Acorn, who works with him, is his doctor.
This surgeon droid was sort of the only
I really do.
being in the universe that can give
What's his own rank?
Grievous
What's DB's own rank?
crap and not get killed for it.
Look what you let
What's
those Jedi
DB's
do
own
to
rank?
you.
DB, what's
You're
your
a
rank?
walking
What do you mean he made his
scrap
own rank?
Matt
You
and
can make
Dave
your
Filoni
own.
and I sort of
I don't care.
brainstormed a little bit about what he would sound like, and we
Even
decided he
5,
should
though.
sound as far away from Grievous's voice as possible.
What happened to my bodyguards? They were remotely deactivated for recharge.
So I decided to go with Paul Lind as the inspiration.
Master, you have an incoming transmission.
It is super
from
interesting. Absolutely.
Count Dooku.
Absolutely, Robert.
Nice.
Dave's decision
Thank
to
you,
go with
thank you.
Paul Lim was great because he just felt the Grievous was so, that big Eastern European sounding villain.
Sometimes I wonder why you submitted to the changes.
Improvements! I submit to no one. I chose them.
But now do Grievous.
Right. See, the thing about it, his voices all sound like his actual voice, which is great. Mine, you need 50 grand worth of electronic equipment to make it work.
He's still evil when he shuts the door and calls Grievous to come kill the Jedi.
Get him, Master!
And like a lot of interesting characters we created in Clone Wars, we killed him.
Oh no.
know what I was thinking there. You know, C-3PO, when he's disassembled, his head and his body, they still work without his arms and legs.
Now, where are you taking me?
So maybe because Grievous wins, he collects the doctor's head and he takes it with him, so he still got it. And then the doctor complained, like, how come he always puts Grievous back together, but Grievous doesn't take the time to put him back together? And Grievous, well, I like you more this way. I can keep an eye on you. And he's just like part of his control console now or something. So I don't know. It might be something we'd explore, because I did like the doctor a lot.
How exciting!
So good. What's this one? Dooku Captured. Oh, this is a good one. Hondo.
Well,
Hondo.
what do we
Oh,
have here?
I sound like Hondo. With my voice, I sound, because it's a little deeper, I sound like Hondo. Well.
Who are you? More importantly, my friend, who are you?
More important. Hang on. More importantly, my friend, who are you?
Dooku gets captured by a bunch of pirates. Yes. Now that I think is very hard to believe, except that there are 30 pirates around him.
Are these what you were looking for, Jedi?
Now, I agree wholeheartedly that Dooku is incredibly powerful. But the fact remains that if he gets into a fight with 30 pirates, yes, he might kill 15 of them, but he will get shot and he will go down. All you gotta do is watch Attack of the Clones. How does Count Dooku thwart those Jedi? Sheer numbers. Sheer numbers will defeat the Jedi.
You must be overly optimistic if you think.
For George, I think it was interesting to have Dooku captured so that Obi-Wan and Anakin could confront him, so that you have some interaction between these characters that usually normally only happens at the end of a sword point.
They are devious and deceitful. And
That's
most
right.
importantly,
Hondo's the character that.
It's a wonder you don't
Chicken
get
would go
along
gay
with them,
for.
Dooku. You have so much in common.
We hadn't really done an episode where Obi-Wan and Anakin were together and had a lot of dialogue.
How can I become a Jedi Master if I'm always getting caught?
At least you're a master at getting caught.
Zinger!
This
Oh,
was a chance for like the
zinger.
boys to get together
good.
and kind of make fun of each other and pick on each other. Anakin was a little rock at him at one point. Ahsoka took a very big back seat in this episode.
Sorry, Snips. Only 2 this time.
She's kind of got the view of like, what are you guys up to now? You see that they've all kind of got to know each other a little better, and she's still at this point criticizing them kind of outright.
You let him get away?
No, not get away. Exactly. Just chime in anytime.
Oh no, I'm enjoying this far too much.
I'm not going to help you out. I'm really enjoying this because I used to have this problem with you.
Exactly.
You used to tell me what to do,
And you will learn your place, young one.
So she's obviously picked that up from Anakin. But you get to see the interaction between Obi-Wan and Anakin and understand why she kind of behaves the way she does a little better. Because, she's a young kid with these two guys.
Oh, I see. So, which part of the situation did you have under control? The blocked entrance, the poison gas, or that Gundark behind you?
Gundark.
So good.
Dooku Captured is the first time on screen that we see a Gundark, which is a creature that's referenced in Empire Strikes Back when Luke is recovering from his Wampa attack and Han says,
"He looks strong enough to pull ears off a Gundar."
Thanks to you.
it was a throwaway reference in 1980. It's funny because there are lots of throwaway references to other places and events in the Star Wars movies, but this is one we followed up on.
I thought Gundarks were only found on Vankor.
Then this system must be Vankor.
We used the monster manual. There was a Gundark in there.
Oh, the Star Wars Monster Manual.
And then we had Killian Plunkett adapt it.
We did try different sort of more animalistic looking Gundarks. We tried some that looked more like bats. We tried some that looked more like wolves. The main thing was that the ears be prominent because they had to be visible because we know Gundarks have ears.
Jump in anytime.
Oh, you're doing fine.
Eventually sort of ran all these designs by George. He really liked the pre-existing one that was from the source book for the role-playing game and actually told us to match to that as closely as we could with a little bit of wiggle room. The biggest difference between the Clone Wars Gundark is that it's got a mane more like a wolf or a lion. It's got a little more fur. Perhaps the only other difference is that the Clone Wars Gundark has 4 nostrils like a Tauntaun, The older design only had 2, but it's really close.
Remember, Anakin, this could still be a
interesting.
trap.
You're not worried about Dooku, are you?
No, I'm worried about these pirates.
George is a big fan of the pirate movies back.
Oh, I did it again. Hang on. Sorry. I kept doing that.
Hondo Anaka and his group of pirates.
Even a Sith Lord is no match for my warriors.
And really make them different than other scallywags we've seen before.
Put up quite a fight. Blasters, cannons, that glowy thing.
One thing he would definitely wanted to see was them to be flying saucers. And that were really well armed, but just, right down to the flying saucer sound effect.
There's the small pirate scout ship, and then there's the giant pirate mothership. The main sort of the root sound for both of those is a theremin. It's that 50s sci-fi, classic sci-fi sound. That's the instrument that was used for almost every, I would say B sci-fi movie, but pretty much every sci-fi movie in the 50s used a theremin.
Exactly. This is something that I think George has been trying to get into Star Wars for a very long time. He didn't get to use them in the features. Does not mean he won't use them here. And he has them in mind, and he brings them up. And next thing you know, they're flying around the Clone Wars. There are certain things in Star Wars that George likes to be very consistent. One of them is like that certain aliens represent certain factions. And Weequay, which were used as skiff guards on Jabba's palace, he decided would make very good pirates. Killian Plunkett designed a system with which the characters of the pirates could be interchangeable.
Very, very difficult. This was the first time that George specifically called for multiple characters in every shot. And ultimately, we did what we had to do, which is cheat. Apart from Hondo, who is the leader of the pirates, pretty much every other pirate you see is a clone. We tried to come up with something like a paper doll system where you would build an alpha version of a male and female pirate, and they would have a very basic, simple outfit. And then on top of that, you could add other elements.
They had hair plugs, they had different vests, jackets, guns, holsters, gloves, bracers, boots, shoulder armor. It was all kind of interchangeable. That was a big step for us. We'd never done that kind of thing before. So for the first time, you see these large crowds of people, and they have a lot of individual characteristics.
It's surprisingly effective. It's pretty interesting how much you can get away with by basically taking the same 2 actors and dressing them up over and over again with slightly different outfits. I think we got a fair amount of mileage out of a relatively small amount of elements.
Oh, so cool. You should take that cannon. Hondo should be on or near Batu during Ahsoka. Yeah, it's a good point. He's probably out there doing that. Oh, Gungan
Senator
General.
Karras, Representative Binks, take your seats. We are coming in for a landing.
This is the second time that you see Jar Jar in a prominent role in the series, where he's sent on a diplomatic mission to Florum to help out Anakin and
Love
Obi-Wan, who
Florum
have been
as a planet.
captured.
It's so cool.
And I just had the notion of, what if the lead clone of the senator in charge was killed and Jar Jar ended up technically in charge of clones? I think that would be the clone's worst nightmare, and that's something we could explore.
Mission no fear, Senator Karras.
Sir, over here. I found the senator.
Oh, no.
That's right. This was like so sad.
One of
Oh
the things
yeah,
George
let
added
me
was
get you the Discord.
Jar Jar being very respectful at the funeral, like he felt bad, and that's where you see the headpiece of the staff of Ra. Senator Karras is carrying the headpiece of the staff of Ra.
I'm
and
glad
Jar Jar
you
plants
enjoyed
it on his
CG. I
grave.
appreciate
You're so
it.
fine dressed,
I
Senator.
gotta I'm
Those
so
them
sorry
look
I've been
good
so
in
out
their
of it the
heart.
past week, but I do have to add you to the
Always
Masters
passing
chat.
too
So that you're a
You
master.
stopped short of putting a little
Saying.
red crystal in the middle of it, but it's definitely there. And it was just something fun to do with Indiana Jones. It's not exactly the headpiece of staff of Ra. I'm not saying that there's some kind of continuity there that the Egyptians somehow get it.
Representative Binks, we need you to go out there and negotiate with the pirates.
Mission no liking this idea.
The tanks were designed by Wayne Lowe. They're based a little bit on the skiffs from Return of the Jedi, but only very loosely. we're going to see the inside of those tanks in later episodes, but most of the action takes place on the outside, where the tanks are in a ground battle with the Scalders, which are those sort of rhino-like creatures that were designed by Sergio Paez.
The idea that Count Dooku is tied up with
Get them on
Anakin
Amazon.
was something that George was very interested in. He wanted the character
I
dynamic
can get it by
of
tomorrow.
these two good guys tied up with this one bad guy.
The lemon and mint ones?
First of all,
Mint
logistically,
sage.
that's a nightmare for us
Cinnamon.
because of the
pretty
little
good, actually.
glowing blue rope, and then they're all animating tied together down the hallway. That's another level of difficulty. Then they're pole vaulting upside down.
Mm.
I had a question early on, when they try to jump that gap and Anakin manages to get his handhold there and Dooku's going to fall,
Hi, Sonia.
probably to his death. And Obi-Wan grabs him and saves him.
Hey, what are you guys doing?
And I know audience members are like, wait a second, why is Obi-Wan saving this guy that tried to kill him and would have killed him if given the chance? But Obi-Wan is a Jedi and he's doing the right thing.
Hondo,
I getcha.
Again, he's a new character for us in the Clone Wars. And arguably the characters that are new are very interesting immediately because you don't know what happens to them. And he's smart enough to capture Count Dooku. He has a whole bunch of guys following him. So he's kind of his own little force. And we always have to wonder, well, whose side is he playing? He's not with the Republic. He's not with the Separatists. He's an independent. In the end, for Hondo, it's really a question of morality. And that's kind of what Obi-Wan is really bringing up. Even though Hondo's done all these terrible things to Obi-Wan, he's imprisoned Obi-Wan and Anakin, he deceived Obi-Wan and Anakin. Despite all those things, Obi-Wan's forgiving. And he says, let him go, Anakin. And they're going to walk away because for Obi-Wan, there is no conflict anymore.
Anakin, release him.
What?
Captain, you have nothing we want. And since we're not prisoners anymore, you have no bargaining power.
Hondo has a hard time understanding that Obi-Wan will just walk away. In Hondo's world, it's an eye for an eye.
Hold! Jedi! After everything, you're just going to walk away?
We have no quarrel with you, and we seek no revenge.
Indeed. Very honorable.
As Hondo will unfortunately learn at the end of the episode from Obi-Wan, Dooku's not going to be very forgiving of this transgression against him.
Oh, Captain, you will find that Count Dooku does not share our sense of honor. And he knows where you live.
Great music, isn't it? Amazing. All right, next one. Let's go. This is so fun. I'm enjoying this. I don't know how many there are.
Our shields are gone.
Hurry, Skywalker. We're depending on you.
Oh, this one. This is a great few episodes.
Jedi Crash, this one's one of my favorites.
So true.
This episode, Rob Coleman directed. It's got some of the first shots where you see
Prepare the gunships.
Jedi cruisers dropping out of hyperspace in a way that's very reminiscent of the original trilogy.
We're entering the atmosphere.
It's got a space battle, or as close as we get for most of season 1 to a space battle. It's got new flying super battle droids.
These next few episodes are my favorite.
Yeah,
It's
they're
going
the
to be
same
so
battle
good.
droids, but now they can fly.
They fly
It
now?
has a really good crash scene. Anakin crashes the Twilight in the movie, and it lands in a big sand dune, and it worked fine, but it never really felt that much like a real impact. No glass breaks, nothing really gets dented. It just sort of lands and stops. But there's a much more visceral feeling of crashing, like really crashing. The quick cutaway shots of shattering glass and debris being kicked up was really dynamic. You know, for something that's
that's a good
produced for
point,
TV
Dan.
to have that attention to
point.
detail, to just really feel like you are in a serious crash and that there is a lot of damage being done is pretty unusual.
I thought it was a great idea George had to show Anakin get mortally injured. Here's this guy who's seemingly invulnerable, can win any battle, and he really gets hurt bad here. Another kind of thematic element that inspired me was the idea of a people in the middle of a war who refuse to choose sides. And they go to great lengths to move themselves to a place where they won't have to fight.
This is such an impactful
We
episode.
colonized this system to find solace from your wretched war.
Wretched war.
We came here to find peace.
We don't want to join
And in this
you.
story, you know, they
We
kind of
want
show
no
that
part
they're
of
good.
it.
They're good people.
He's
they're
so good.
compassionate,
Is he
they're
Irish?
helping the Jedi.
Yes, is this Irish?
Can you at least give us some
Scottish.
medical supplies? My friend is dying.
But they still believe the Jedi are responsible for the war
Maybe
because they're
he's even
participating.
is it a bit
Only
Welsh?
when you lay your arms down and pursue a course of non-violence can you make this claim to me that the Jedi are peacekeepers.
Is that
We
Welsh?
went to
Is
do
that a Welsh
the
accent? What is that?
episodes with the Lurman. Originally,
Listen coming in.
there was a
$7
comic book
dues.
that Henry
Good
Gilroy
bands want
had
to say
read,
thanks again for
and
the stream.
something
You
that I
guys
was
have a great
familiar
night.
with,
Much love to you all.
these
Thank you so much,
Amanin
Melissa.
were
I'm so
actually
glad you've been
fighting
enjoying it. You got this for the next
Imperials
7
on a
weeks.
grass plain.
So
So
it's gonna be a
that
good time
episode
every
of the
Wednesday.
comic book was
Love it.
really
We'll choose that for you
inspirational
guys.
for what we were trying
Appreciate
to do here.
ya. Thank you so
In
much
the
for
end,
all
we
the
needed a race on the planet that wasn't so violent as the Amanin had proved to be, especially in the comics, that weren't going to be such a threat. And we talked with George, and George decided that he would use the Lurman people that he had abandoned in Revenge of the Sith. But certain things are left over from the Amanin species, like the fact that the little Lurmans roll like the Amanin rolled in the comic books. And so that was something that was really kind of interesting to see how the expanded universe influenced the story that we were doing.
The rolling thing was an afterthought too. They weren't designed with rolling in mind per se. We actually changed the shape of their tail afterwards to sort of help
Yes,
with the
you
cushioning
did.
that
I was
they
gonna
would need
try.
as they rolled
I
along.
did say we should go get Sin. I don't know where.
You
it
know,
is.
they're really fun, so
Rookies,
it's nice
yeah.
to see them finally
Rookies was,
make it.
So I think
It was
a good
also
episode
fun
during
for us in this
season.
episode to bring the
We did
very
think of you. We
popular
did think of you when we
expanded
looked at
universe
that.
character of Ayla Sakura to the screen for really the second time, because she had appeared, played by Amy Allen in the live action movies.
No way,
and
was he?
here, Jennifer Hale portrayed her as the voice actress.
Our ship clashed a few miles away and one of us is very badly injured.
She was able to do a subtle French accent and really had some interesting pronunciations of words. One of our favorite things at the studio is the way that she says creatures.
Be mindful of your surroundings, Padawan. Those creatures are still out there.
And we went back and forth. No, it's creatures. Should we replace that? But how do I
Hey,
know?
Taryn.
Man, this is how Ayla says creatures. So
Creatures.
yeah, and Ayla's a little hard on Ahsoka about the
Creatures.
fact that you can't sacrifice 1,000 lives to save just one.
I know this is hard, Ahsoka, but Anakin has to stay behind and we have to go now.
You know, it gave us the opportunity to have another mentor relationship for Ahsoka, kind of a big sister figure.
And I think it added up to something really exciting.
Watch out!
No wonder it's deserted. It's a death trap. You'd have to be crazy to want to dodge those on a daily basis.
Those pods were designed by Jackson
Creatures,
Z,
yeah.
and
This is so
we
great.
do see them again as habitats for the Lurman. But the first time you see them, it's when they fall out of the tree and almost kill Bly, and Ayla saves them. And those are a really sort of nice idea because those
Yeah,
look
like
at-
this
at once
Clone
they
Wars
look like
Lego game is pretty
acorns
good.
or
We actually
walnut
started
seeds,
streaming that, but I never
they do
finished it on
relate
the
to
channel.
a thing that most people know,
Great
which is a
game.
nutshell. But they're also 10 feet high. They feel right at that size. Why would a pod need to be that big to grow a tree that size? Well, you know, that's the magic of not quite movie making.
You find that kind of thread in the Clone Wars series, and it's another way that not only I think are we keeping the history, the look of Star Wars alive, and paying a real nod to the people that came before, but I think it definitely is exciting for the fans that know this stuff, that have seen it just scribbled on a page, to see it there live and thriving in the Star Wars galaxy.
Oh, it's so good. He's so right on the money there. It's all about, yeah, connecting what has come before with Star Wars, definitely. And all these tiny little things of picking up like old concept designs and everything is so cool that they use that in this show. I'm not sure what accent is supposed to be. It reminds me of Scottish Terrier leading the tramp, but American doing what they think is Scottish accent. Yeah, fair enough. Micro 2D Clone Wars on here. Absolutely would love that. Yeah, we probably could actually, because I've never seen it. So
Negative, sir. The
that'd be
droid
fun.
ship. Coming straight.
Maybe
This
maybe
episode
near
was
Christmas
directed
or
by
something.
Stuart Lee,
Should do
who
some
is
watch
a
parties.
huge Hong
I
Kong
don't know.
action movie fan, and he was adamant that by the time that the Defoliant tank showed up, that we would have some sort of big epic action scene.
Droids inbound.
Sorry, Mrs. Chicken.
You can always tell
I'm
when
sorry
Stu
for
is directing
showing
an episode because
it
people
again
don't
to
just
Mrs.
fight.
Chicken.
Everyone sort of gets to strike
That's
a
a message just
do
for
at least one
Mrs.
cool
Chicken.
move per fight. It was the first time
Oh, I
that we
love it.
really saw Ayla let loose and just sort of start taking people out.
One thing that we had to be cautious of was we felt there were overload
Yeah,
of
the Bombad
episodes
trees.
early on in the series where Grievous or Ventress were being defeated, and really quickly you can run into a scenario where
Get it off the
you're
screen.
taking away
Welcome
the
back.
threat
Welcome back to him.
that
How did
these
you go?
characters hold by having them lose all the time. So if we had to do a lot of situations where the good guys won, we wanted to make sure that there were different generals, different characters that could pay a penalty and get captured or
point.
have to escape,
point.
instead of it always being General Grievous. That actually led to the creation of a whole new general.
I love this
Menace
guy.
have you brought to our village now,
This general. What's his name? I forget his name. King, no, General something.
I am General Lockdurd.
Lockdurd. That's his name. Great villain. Lockdurd. This guy's a legend. He's so funny. He's
Well,
so
Dirk the
funny.
Nemoidian was the third major Nemoidian design. The second one was actually Martuk, who doesn't appear now until the end of the season. He was designed before Lockdurd. And Martuk has a similar shape to New Gunray. So when we got to Lockdurd, we sort of consciously decided, was there a way to change the silhouette of a Nemoidian and just give them a different shape? And we decided that going with a sort of really big, heavy, rolly guy with an even bigger hat than New Gunray's
An even
would
bigger
just-
hat. I love
would
it.
work. It would
You know
would
what
sort
they
of sell
say?
that this guy was extremely
hat.
flamboyant and very bossy and even more gluttonous than your average Nemoidian.
I would like
Oh.
to inspect my
Love
new
it, I love
colony. Ransack this donkey.
Lockdurd was designed before we knew George Takei was going to do the voice, which just adds to the whole thing.
Looks like a
because
dude.
The voice and that design work extremely well together.
I have located a world in which we can test my
Even bigger hat.
excuse me,
Even bigger.
our
hat.
new weapon.
Really, the first time I met George was
Look at
actually
him,
the
the
Clone Wars
legend.
record, and I showed him the character design, and he remarked, "Once again, I've been cast fat. I must have a very fat voice." Oh my!
Hey CT, how you doing, man?
He's always pontificating to all the battle droids who sort of seem to sort of put up with it or maybe enjoy it. I don't know. But there's this one moment where they pull up
I want a
in their
peanut. I want
tanks.
some
They're
peanuts
about
right
ready to
now.
raid this town. And he starts going off again.
When Count Dooku sees how successful my weapon is against
I'm going to be promoted. I'm going to be the best, whatever. And
As he's talking to all these, automatons.
I will no doubt be promoted to a more substantial position.
So the next cut is to the battle droid who was just supposed to point and say, go or whatever it was. So there was a bit of a pause before he points. So Matt throws in.
Okay, right.
Really? That's cool.
so, because it's just so funny. Like sometimes you think like,
Yeah.
do the droids really care about what is going on with? I mean, do they have their own self motivation, or are they just like
What
control?
about Yava suggested one? Forget. Our favorite memory of Star Wars, I think that's what it's going to be.
One of the
I'll
things
message
that
him.
we had tried before on other planets was to sort of give you rolling hills, so it wasn't just this very flat surface. We really wanted to try and push the notion that there was terrain here, and all of the grasslands were designed by Jackson Z. And the skies that you see in the background in the episode are also painted by Jackson and then mapped onto a sky dome. So this kind of is the Jackson episode. I mean, the initial designs for the Lurman were also done by Jackson. His fingerprints are all over this show. It just looks like his artwork. And it's really nice when certain things, just by coincidence, all end up in the same episode by the same artist, because it gives it a flavor which is really nice.
It's so cool. I mean, the look of Clone Wars designs is so iconic, hey? So it makes sense. Next one. I don't know what the next one is. Trespass. Oh, great episode. Another bang episode. 3 back-to-back episodes that are really, really good.
And this is the planet's tropical zone.
Oh, and what's his name? Chicho.
Captain Rex, Have your men circle
Chairman,
the area.
cheat
Place
sheet.
as many sensor beacons as you
I am
can
the
before
chairman.
dark.
Right away, sir.
Must do as I
For the
say.
development
I'm
of
cheat
the
sheet.
ice planet in the Clone Wars, first George came to us with a very specific idea for this story. He wanted a real circle the wagons kind of outnumbered by a very deadly native threat type of story. He wanted a lot of whiteout. He wanted a lot of snow density. What the guys and I decided to do then was take Ralph McQuarrie's original paintings for Hoth and really try to apply them to what we were doing, but make them different. Hoth, as Ralph painted it, has a lot of blue in it, a lot of more saturation of colors. And I don't think that was as much true in the film Empire Strikes Back, because they were really on location filming. We thought we had a chance to make our ice more stylized. We could push it more.
The end of the season
create
one
more
is
interesting
really
shapes
good.
and really
Very
do an ice planet as Ralph envisioned it.
It's like almost my favorite
originally for Empire Strikes Back.
I should rank this.
And once the
probably go
texture
season
painting
7 and
was
then season
accomplished,
1.
we
then
sat
season
down and
3.
talked
It's
about
my top
kind of
3
anime-esque effects where the trails
Another
underneath the
weird
speeder bikes would have more of an
Chuchi.
edge
Ah,
to them.
you know what?
And be a little
Chuchi's
bit
kinda
more
hot. I feel like what he's saying,
stylized than the type of realistic
I was gonna say
sprites
no,
you
but
might
then
see
she is kind of
in the previous episodes of Clone Wars.
By the time we got to Trespass, you know, you can sort of see the experience and the sort of learning curve on the show, because Trespass has some of the smoothest and the most lifelike character animation to date. There's some really nice, very subtle performances from all of the actors.
We can't send troopers. They'll think we lied.
These
General-
creatures are little more
This
than
guy.
animals. You can't lie to an animal. They can't be trusted.
There are subtle things happening with
oh,
the breath that's
they
coming
can't
out
be
of people's
trusted.
mouths when they talk.
Can't lie to an
This is
animal.
all stuff that probably wouldn't have
Such a
happened
funny
if
guy.
we'd made this particular
An idiot,
episode
though.
earlier in the season.
Hey,
But
Joel.
it just, all these sort of little finishing touches to give the thing some life really sort of help
Give us the
get
how's
people
what's
involved in the story,
foot
because
update,
the
Julie?
characters just seem
Your
that little
stitches
bit
out?
more
How's it
alive.
going? How's it healing?
We had different densities of snow and different speeds of snowfall that we wanted to parallel the type of story or the story beat that was going on. And if you watch the moment when Chuchi buries the hatchet with the Tal's leader, is the moment that the blizzard cuts and then suddenly the snow all drifts very gently down. And so the environment in that episode is very much a part of the story.
Yeah, it would have been very close to. Probably just
How do you plan on
maybe just
communicating?
before they came out. Maybe I don't know.
Patience.
Maybe they were already out. What? This was Munchol.
Well, say something.
Just shut up.
The Tals inhabit Orta Plutonia. Visually, they work really well on the snow planet. They have a language barrier. I think that worked really well for the story.
That's so. I love that
But it's
drawing.
always
of the
funny
droid.
when
So good.
you know people come up and say, "Well, but what are they burning in the fire?" I'm like, "Wow, you really worried about that? That's amazing." I don't know what they're burning. Perhaps there's an area under the ice where there is some type of foliage that you could burn. I remember a painting that Ralph McQuarrie did of tauntauns under the ice where they are actually eating a grass type substance on Hoth. So if you fans think that you ask a lot of difficult questions on the blogs and on the web pages, you have not met my design team.
I mean, it's an ice planet. It isn't even like Hoth, where Hoth has rocks and snow. This is really meant to be just ice.
The
And
burning
it
poop from the animals.
begs the
That's
question, what
hilarious.
do the Narglach eat? Do the Tals eat each other? That was the whole thing, because in the script, the totem poles outside the Tals village are made of wood. And I just, asked Dave, they used all the wood on the whole planet for totem poles? I mean, what's burning in the fireplace in their
It's
igloo?
so good. I never
Because
thought
if
of
there's
this.
nothing but ice,
Perhaps they're burning, blubber rubbed on bones, and perhaps the bones of some of the animals on that planet that we didn't see are actually quite, volatile. They will burn.
this is where, it kind of pays
It's
not
so good.
to get too logical, because it just hurts.
Savages!
We're supposed to hit the coach maybe first.
It's always fun when you have a
Oh,
character
cool. I might
to
actually
put them
do
in a
that,
new
George.
costume
Saw that.
for a specific environment. They couldn't just walk around in their Jedi outfits, so we thought, let's make some Jedi snow gear.
Yeah, these are the
And
coats
let's
Chili
base
talking
it on the jacket we like that Han Solo wore. We wanted to keep a stylization, not do like real hair for particles on the hood, so we just created a graphic shape and just kind of moved it.
Might we go inside, Master Anakin? R2 would like to get out of the cold.
We had to do then a snow trooper clone with it, and we wanted to do one that was kind of in between what we'd seen in Revenge of the Sith, and they are inspired very much by Ralph McQuarrie's original snow trooper designs that you see in very early Empire Strikes Back paintings. So visually, we were able to put a lot of cues in for people to grab onto.
I thought this planet was uninhabited. Our moon of Pantora is the only civilization in this system. This wasteland belongs to us.
The Pantoran dignitaries are connected to George's own character, Baron Papanoida, the blue-skinned delegate you see in Revenge of the Sith, played by George. So they're from that same world, and this gets you a little look at the politics of their world.
They are available. What is it called? Columbia Sportswear. So you can actually get. There's like a Star Wars license.
You know, it was kind of neat to have
it's so
this
expensive.
young girl senator and try and make her different from Padme.
Chuchi!
And really do a story where she is kind of earning her place, you know, replacing this kind of time-tested, more ruthless ruler, that maybe there's a change needed away from war.
Would you like me to represent Pantora in this matter?
Not on your life, Senator.
Oh, he's so slimy.
This time. Listen here, you savage.
You hear a lot of political
Listen
talk
here,
about
you savage.
the Jedi's place versus the Senate's place.
This is now an internal affair of Pantora.
This episode then becomes a look into the way the Jedi operated prior to the war. Yes, they're commanding clone troopers. Yes, this episode takes place during the war. But you see Anakin and Obi-Wan acting in much more of a diplomatic function than we've seen. Normally, they're acting like generals commanding a war. Here, they're, you know, at one point, Obi-Wan tells Chuchi that, no, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to resolve this problem for you. You got your people into this, you know, situation. You are going to have to get yourself out.
He's in there.
But I don't understand. The Jedi serve the Senate. I must order you to...
Senator, it is your people the Tals are at war with. If the violence is to stop, it is you who must represent your people.
The Jedi were working more as the arbitrator of the whole thing. It was a good way to show the past of the Jedi and the way they think, or at least Obi-Wan thinks they'll act in the future.
To die for one's people is a great sacrifice. To live for one's people, an even greater sacrifice. I choose to live for my people. What do you choose?
So good. So good. Great episode. Another great episode after this one. Pretty sure it's Blue Shadow Virus, right? The hidden enemy. Oh.
This mission is extremely confidential.
Wrong-o.
The spy could be anyone. Let no one know of our mission.
Understood, sir.
As we started
this
into the
episode. This
development,
was cool.
The
This
second
was a
part
good
of the
one.
first season stories.
Again, season one is
George
just
was
such a cool
really getting
season.
involved in the writing process. And this one story, he thought, you know, what would be great to do a story about a clone that goes bad.
Someone left his comlink on. Someone has been listening to everything we said.
And that's how we got the hidden enemy.
Hey, stop!
We had an episode where we had a traitor, Captain Argaius, in the Cloak of Darkness. He debates with the clone, Commander Gree, that he wanted a life with more than empty servitude.
A clone like you would never understand.
However, we find out in the Hidden Enemy that there are clones that
Ooh,
would
that's
betray the
cool.
Republic.
That's cool,
They
Julie.
go kind of what I like to refer as they go a little bit Django. They are a little bit too much like Django Fett in their unpredictability and ability to improvise.
CG. The Blue Shadow Virus arc. We should watch that next. It's a great. I love that arc too.
Slick.
I love that arc too.
Slick's
It's so
the
good.
traitor.
I think it's after this
Slick
one.
doesn't
I don't know how I got it
appreciate
wrong.
the structure of the society the clones have. He accuses the Jedi of using the clones.
It's the Jedi who keep my brothers enslaved. We do your bidding.
This doesn't sit well with Slick. He's offered something more by Ventress, and he decides to betray the Republic. He thinks he's doing it for his brothers.
But I was striking a blow for all clones.
So it's a divergent view from the rest of the clones, and one that's very upsetting to Rex and Cody. was nice to see Cody and Rex once again working together. They know the tendency of the clones because they are one of them.
Hey there, Slick. Guns
He is so young.
That
man.
makes some things
So
easier
young
and makes
here.
some things more difficult.
Thank you for the $5 dude.
He knows all our moves
I feel
before
like I
we
didn't say it
even
enough.
make them.
Christophsis was a very, very ambitious environment to pull off the first time. This was a chance to go back and revisit a place that we've been before and make it feel more expansive. The Republic base, that's sort of the main setting for Hidden Enemy, had been in the script, and George said he wanted to see a base, so a base is what it was. Originally, it was supposed to really just be 2 huts. That turned into 8 huts. That turned into 8 huts in a command center. That turned into 8 huts, a command center, a power generator, and then we had a wall around it. It just kept getting bigger and bigger. We still reused the sort of overall Death Star feeling stuff. The command center is the same geometry we saw in Trespass. This is meant to be the same Republic Army technology at work.
That makes
You see the
sense.
same doors and the same corridors and the same ships over and over again. And you just go, oh, well, that's because, it's all the same army. Of course, they'd just fly that stuff somewhere else. They wouldn't build it again.
The droids are onto us!
One of the fun things I always like to talk to the directors about is how we can make this way more exciting than what we read in the script.
We need an evac in the South Tower.
Roger that, South.
There was a really exciting scene in the beginning. Anakin's in one building and Obi-Wan's in the other.
South Tower. We're in the north.
Not for long.
I really wanted to amp this up, and let's have Anakin break the glass, shoot a cable, zip line over to the next building.
Blast them!
The directors really bring that kind of visual imagination that they blend with the writing to make it a great Star Wars moment.
Come and get me, boys.
You didn't tell us you were bringing friends.
Apart from Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ventress, which are characters we already have, it's clones. Lots and lots of clones.
Season 1 is very janky.
We
isn't
still
it?
have to come up with new hairdos or facial hair or armor designs, but most of what was new for Hidden Enemy were sets. The most insidery thing about Hidden Enemy is that the mess hall is very deliberately modeled on the dining area at Big Rock Ranch. The proportions are the same, the layout's the exact same. It's just one of those goofy things I threw in that somehow made it all the way through.
The only people in here are brothers.
A hotly debated thing was Chopper, one of the clones, you think is the guy that's the traitor.
Where were you before you went to the nest, Chopper? Nowhere.
You find out that he's been stealing battle droid fingers and making a little necklace.
I just wanted something back. I guess I felt like they owed me.
It's to try and hook up with the idea of soldiers cutting off ears or fingers or keeping some kind of memento. If I were Obi-Wan and Anakin, I'd loop back around and ask that guy a couple more questions. So that's
It's so true.
a little weird.
Your whole character's in question here. Wait, no. Hang on. I'm no spy.
Hidden Enemy is another piece of seeing the clones more as individuals. Clones aren't so
another Chopper, I just
cookie
thought that
cutter
too.
as you might think,
Go!
which will put pressure on the entire Order 66 question.
The time has come. Execute Order 66.
Yes, my lord.
Who executes that order? Do they all execute that order? What happens if a clone chooses not to execute that order? I think the Revenge of the Sith style clones are different than the clones at the beginning of the war, mainly because of the influence of the Jedi over them. And as that influence changes, the demeanor of the clones themselves change as well.
Great scene. Amazing scene.
The show is about
Top
to begin.
tier scene.
Something a lot of people are curious about with the Clone Wars is how are these stories taking place and what chronology? Hidden Enemy is a prequel to the Clone Wars movie.
They're back!
It's a prequel to the prequel of one of the prequels. And there's a prequel to this episode that's going to air at some point too. So I've lost count of how prequeled we are now, but Hidden Enemy is a prequel to what we see in the opening of the Battle of Christophsis.
It's the setup that Ventress was around,
Prepare to march on the city.
that she knows Anakin and Obi-Wan have been lured to this planet. So we see her heading towards the ship that she then captures Rada, the Huttlet, in the beginning of the Clone Wars movie, the big squid ship. So we see why Anakin and Obi-Wan are in such a fix, because this guy Slick betrayed them and left them in a pretty bad way.
There are about 1,000 battle droids on their way here.
Fight goes on, gentlemen.
Such a good one. It's a good one. Is it now Blue Shadows Virus? I think, maybe. Maybe. I think so. Let's do it. Let's do it. Ah, love it. Let's go.
Back!
Classic.
This is muy bad.
Biological warfare was an interesting subject for us because it wasn't something that I thought of in my lexicon of Star Wars. And the idea of a virus kind of
Bad Batch
it was hard for me
quality
to
is really
at first
good.
picture how that was going to
I'm
work.
really, yeah.
In the
I totally
comic
agree with that,
books,
Jason.
they had experimented with developing a virus killing Gungans. There had been a Karen Travis novel, Republic Commandos, where the Separatists were developing a biological weapon. So using those stories that existed in the Star Wars expanded universe as a way of saying there are cases where this has already happened, and this is the Clone Wars version of that type of warfare, which is new to the larger Star Wars audience.
Allow me to present the return of the infamous Blue Shadow Virus.
Dr. Vindy he's on the extreme end of Star Wars villains, I think. He's a bit absurd, but he's evil because of his absurdity.
Wonderful specimens.
He's a bit over the top. His alien race was based on some sketches for episode 2 that got abandoned. George will give us a lot of designs from time to time, and among them was this long-necked, vertical-eyed creature, and that was who George said, I'd like Vindy to look like this.
He was designed by Jackson Z, who normally would do more sort of environments and landscapes and stuff, so I think it was really fun for Jackson to get to design the character. This design was an astronaut for one of the prequel movies under this sort of classic 50s style, bell jar, clear glass dome, bubble helmet thing. It just sort of gave him a very interesting silhouette.
Friends of yours, I assume. They arrived quicker than I would have thought.
Michael York was brought in to voice Dr. Vindy, and he just went crazy when he says, yes, 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 yes.
Yes.
I think it's pretty
Classic
funny, and
line.
it shows
It's
this
such
kind
a
of
classic
bizarre
line.
villain
Yeah,
that
yeah,
seems
yeah,
kind of a little
yeah,
bit
yeah,
crazy,
that's
as if he's
right.
been in the lab too
Oh,
long.
so good.
This is the last of the bombs, Doctor.
I'm Velvet is the last. You think I'd lose count?
I'm a rabbit droid. I'm the rabbit little
He's so
butler
good.
rabbit guy with the ears. Hands him a bomb and he's like, go kill everybody.
Take this away.
Okay.
Okay. You know.
That's another one of those things we can add in because he doesn't have a mouth. So
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's not in the air. It's in the water. Who are you? Me, Sir Peppy Bow.
Peppy Bow.
Is an interesting kind of a lead female Gungan character. We were all a bit curious how she was going to be, what she was going to look like. She's pink.
That's right.
Pretty. She's a hat. For some reason, I always saw that character with a hat.
Although there are, in the far, far background of episode 1, there are female Gungans. This was the first time that one of them had a speaking role and showed up close in camera.
They're looking for the sick maker.
Peppy Bow was designed by Wayne Lowe, who came up with this really interesting way of dealing with the big floppy ears on a Gungan, which just completely changes the look away from Jar Jar, but is still very much a believable Gungan character design.
The scenery is
Wayne did
pretty
a great
basic.
job
Hey.
at creating this kind
Very,
of
very
sexy Gungan, little ears back, like she had a ponytail. It was always just a matter of proportion with her as a lady.
Hey,
and
Spartan, how you doing,
we
man?
could make her a good counterpoint to Jar Jar. A crew favorite moment is when she kind of whacks Jar Jar and electrocutes and knocks him over with her stick.
What you doing? Why you so here?
Yeah, it's kind of fun to watch.
Captain Typho, the battle droid is ready for analysis.
N64 scene, yeah,
Captain
true.
Typho appears for the first time in this episode, mainly because we finally have enough
Typho,
resources
Captain
to get him
Typho.
built.
What a guy.
Considering the latest developments, we thought it was best to wait for you.
Because he's got an eye patch, straight away you sort of wonder what this guy's deal is, because he obviously has some sort of interesting backstory. One of the weirder things about Typho was that he has
Did
curly
Dave just
hair,
say
and
sexy
curly
Gungan?
hair just hadn't been attempted on the show up to this point. Darren Marshall sculpts these maquettes just to see how that looks in the round. It made doing curly hair on Padme easier, and anytime some sort of curly pelt on an
CG
animal
coming
was
in with
built,
another
we'd sort of already
$5
figured out how that
dues.
would look.
Blue
just
Shadow
because
Virus
of
reminded me
Typho's
of
hair.
World War One too. World
Russell
War
Chang
One
adapted a Doug
warfare,
Chang
when there was
design
chlorine
for a Naboo police
phosgene,
craft, this big
oxygen,
yellow ship.
and
We'll
mustard
get
gas
this
in the
design and then we
battlefield.
adapt it,
Yeah,
and then we
true,
quickly find out,
absolutely.
well,
I
it's got to
think
have
chemical
landing gear.
warfare
It doesn't have landing gear. There's no way in or out of the ship.
It's only a very
And
real
so the
thing. It's
designers
very
still have to
interesting
do
how
a
they
substantial
represented
amount
it.
of
It's
work
cool, eh?
from the
Very, very
past
cool.
that we're
Thank you
now
so much.
bringing into the
$5
present
dues.
Clone Wars.
Send.
Just the Naboo Palace was an interesting environment to work in. You've seen it in the movie, so again, the
Hey, Astra.
fans know it, so we have to get it right.
It's always fun when you go back to one of the movie locations.
See,
In the
that's a
same
good
way that
shot.
when
Like,
you
that's
design
cool.
one of the movie characters for the show, you have to figure out how to make it read as the same person or place, but not be just a carbon copy.
It was a huge thrill to shoot in that hangar where Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan face off against Darth Maul. The same hangar. I mean, that's great. We had a problem with the tails of the Naboo starfighters and putting them in their stalls.
Where's Panaka?
We put a little donut there, like the tails are inserted in a socket in the wall. That was the only way we could solve it. You know, the length, everything we thought we measured correctly, and there was no time to change it, so there it is in the background. I talked to John Knoll about this problem, and he says, we had the same problem in Phantom Menace. So I thought, oh my gosh, when you're following something, you're being accurate, that same issue, that was a dilemma. I mean, I found that kind of fascinating.
That's cool.
You have so many characters, so many environments. You have to be creative and solve these problems. That's a heavy task on this crew, and they answer it brilliantly every time. We had Dr. Vindy's entire underground base to build. We had the rolling hills to build, the swamp to build. Vindy's a new character.
We have a breach!
Typho's a new character.
Tell us where that lab is.
Navigard's a new character. Padme in a hazmat suit.
I don't want to hurt you.
Jar Jar in the hazmat suit. Peppy Bo.
Lisa, come too.
Different texture on the Bomb Squad clone.
Looks like the bomb room.
When you compare to the older episodes in season 1, we would get 1 new character. The talent of the teams grew enough that we were able to be doing 7 new characters. So it's nice to be able to take those things and use them now to expand the Clone Wars.
Leaving so soon, Doctor?
You are running out of time. Catch!
I think the next one is still with this Blue Shadow virus arc, though. It's like the moons. Mr. Found the moons. One of the most annoying characters.
So you think you found a cure?
Freaking.
Possibly.
What's his
a
name?
little-known extract made from Rixo root. A weed-like vine found only on Iego.
Iego. And there's that kid. There's that kid on Iego. What's his name?
One of those episodes that originally didn't exist. It was a sequel to the Blue Shadow virus.
You are doomed, young Jedi.
It's happened on the series more than once where an episode
100%.
will be written and it seems to work well enough that George decides it would be fun to see a prequel and sometimes as well a sequel to that story, and that's what happened with Thousand Moons.
Mystery of 1,000 Moons struck terror on the production staff. 1,000 moons. We're glad when we can do 1 planet, 1 building, 1,000 moons. This is quite an intimidating idea, but George explained the story that this is really where they go to find the vaccine to the virus.
Hey, Subby.
And it's really kind of a grand adventure.
Everyone looks so young.
There it
These
is.
were in back.
They
pops up to the end. 2009.
It's one of these episodes of Star Wars Clone Wars.
So young.
A little bit off the beaten track of the real war going on.
The venerable Jabo Hood.
Jabo! That's his
Jabo?
freaking name.
Jabo's kind of like
Jabo
another version of
Hood.
Anakin as a kid because he works on droids and fixes things.
No reason to let a good droid rust, right?
Looks like you used a macro protocol to wipe them all simultaneously. Impressive.
I see you know your droids.
Jabo is such a strange offshoot of a character for the Clone Wars, and the idea that he has all these droids working for him.
50
like
tried,
you come by this
50
many battle
died.
droids anyway?
That's a great.
Simple. When the Separatists took off, they left all this junk behind. I got a whole warehouse full of them right over there.
And so these people are just kind of left there, and they need to have the courage to get off their own planet.
Iego was a really sort of fun, interesting looking environment. It was designed by Jackson C. Just a really sort of cool looking
Jabo looks
mishmash of different shaped planetoids, full of wreckage of ships. And it sort of explained that there's a separatist automated gun emplacement thing that's set up around this planet to sort of keep people that are there trapped there.
Those of us who were left can't leave because of the curse.
Some of the earlier designs for the skies had these sort of really, really nicely painted big cloudscapes, which looked really cool, but you couldn't see the planets. All you could see were clouds. So
Snoke is an angel.
the skies were actually
No, I
sort of
don't remember this
repainted
series.
to
It's
dial down
hilarious.
the cloudiness so that you could see all of these sort of crescent moons in the sky. The 1,000 Moons refers to a line that Anakin says in episode 1 to Padme when they first meet, when he asks,
Are you an angel?
Hey, there you go, Tim.
What? An angel. I heard the deep space pilots talk about that.
They're the most beautiful creatures in the universe. They live on the moons of Viego, I think.
The thing about the angels that sets them apart is that they're incandescent. They actually glow. They have these butterfly-shaped wings, and they're wearing robes. I'm not sure if you could get away with it if you didn't say this is one of the angels of Viego, just because they're kind of bizarre.
George actually had a very specific visual in mind for the angels when we were designing it. He had to look at it very directly that time to approve the design. But it's this blending of these bizarre aliens and bizarre alien worlds, these kind of big basalt pillars on Viego, and then down below where the Rixa root and these kind of vine creatures are. So it's very much that, to me, Jabba's palace world of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. There's a very dramatic story going on with Ahsoka and Padme as they're getting sicker and sicker.
When they're the two characters that Anakin is most attached to, you know, in the galaxy, it just sort of ratchets up the tension.
So true, so true.
The stakes for him personally are very, very high.
We'll borrow a power converter from Jabo and reprogram it to feed our... Slow down, Anakin. Slow down. Slow down? You saw them, Master. They're dying.
It's very clear that if he doesn't find the cure for this disease, then Padme and Ahsoka are both going to die.
No!
One thing that I will notice, the clones' suits can't filter out the virus, even though they're usually pretty airtight. They're in an atmospheric version of the suit, so they can breathe the very tiny particles of the virus through their ventilation systems. It doesn't filter it out.
I hope that their sacrifice brings us closer to peace.
One thing that I do really like about this episode is the textures for the sick versions of Padme and Ahsoka, because the veins in their skin turn blue. They really look sick, which is great. They don't just look like they've got a cold. It's very easy to believe that these characters are in very serious trouble.
You must believe that.
Next one. Let's go. What's it gonna be? Storm over Ryloth. Classic. This is another great arc.
In the Storm over Ryloth, we had the opportunity with this large-scale invasion
the Numa one?
to give the Jedi different tasks in accomplishing the
blue
recapture
shadow
of
virus.
I'm ordering you to return to the ship.
I think very early on we wanted to do a thematic.
Yeah, I remember.
Tell us from that
watching
story
that for
about
the first time
real
too.
costs of war.
It's like scary.
We have to break that blockade. The Twi'leks on Ryloth are depending on us.
I understand that, Master, but we've lost so
Is there a
many
bit
men.
scenes for each episode? Yeah.
In this first story, Storm over Ryloth, we really wanted to show
so.
what are the casualties of war. What happens to the innocent people who happen to be on these planets when this giant war is raging around them.
Here we go.
To me, this was a really big moment
Blue
for Ahsoka.
shadow
because
virus.
she's tasked with the responsibility
I
of
can't
these
do it well
pilots.
with the.
All right,
with my
boys, let's clear a
voice.
path.
Right away, sir.
Originally in the
Shadow
script,
virus.
Anakin was out flying a fighter squadron with Ahsoka at the beginning
I'm
of
a
the
little.
battle.
I got a
And
chest
then George
infection.
came in and said, well, let's put Anakin on the bridge.
I feel like it's
So we
not a
have a
cold though.
moment where
Like I feel
Anakin,
great,
you know, has to
technically.
trust his Padawan
But I
and
just
say,
my
you go do it,
my
'cause
chest.
I've got to look at the battle as a
vocal cords
whole.
are just like gone.
My power converters. They're failing.
Just stay with me, Axe.
Ahsoka leads some troops into battle on her own, and those pilots have some of the nicest helmet designs. They were all designed by Tim Brock. And they're all actually very sort of reminiscent
Tim
of
Brock?
Samurai Flower and Lotus
Is that our
designs,
Tim Brock?
but they're very simple graphic shapes.
We have a Tim Brock. That's hilarious. Did
I
you
just
design
think they
those
work
helmets,
really
Tim?
well. Sort of blue
Come on.
areas that run across the helmets are very sort of distinctive and unique, to the point where it's a shame that they all just get blown up so quickly.
I can't shake them. I can't help you, Axe. I got my own problems.
In the past, we've had Ahsoka against
Oh,
battle
because they're
droids,
generals.
super
Jedi had
battle
like a
droids, regular
different.
battle droids.
They
She
were a
has
level
yet
above.
to really
That's fine,
be
I think.
pitted against somebody who's a really cunning commander. And in this episode, you know, we created this Nemoidian Martuk.
Patience. Let's see what
I'll catch you next time,
trickery the
Yabba.
Jedi have planned for us.
I
Martuk.
really liked Martuk.
This is
as
guy.
a character.
This guy.
He's definitely quite similar in a lot of ways to Gunray. And when the model came back from overseas, really all that had happened was they'd swapped the hat, given him some shoulder pads and stuck glasses on him and sort of gone, there you go. But it just didn't work. I mean, it looked like Nute Gunray wearing glasses and a funny hat, or a different funny hat. It just didn't look like the intended design. So I remember that I actually stayed pretty late that night to do a paint over, just to sort of show how you need to change the mouth and do a couple of little different things just to really make it look like what we were hoping Martuk would look like. It was definitely worth it just to sort of fine tune him and get the sort of Mick Jagger, Donald Rumsfeld, mouth in there and really make him different to Nute Gunray.
I am certain this Skywalker will return. His ultimate defeat shall be my greatest victory.
You want to say where the name Martuk comes from?
It actually is named after Dave's cat. His name is Took, so I named the Nemoidian admiral after his kitty.
Good cat.
The little sort of blinking red and blue thing on the side of his goggles was not really intended to happen. It was meant to just be a glass sort of scope on one side and metal on the other. And when it went overseas, I think they just decided to do it themselves. And enough people liked it and thought it looked interesting that it just sort of stayed.
All right, Ahsoka. We're ready to get underway.
Master, are you sure you won't reconsider this?
When we were shooting this episode, Brian O'Connell, the director, and we were looking at the footage and the dailies coming in, and there seemed to be something that wasn't adding up in the story. You weren't really getting that Ahsoka felt bad about losing these guys. You weren't really getting the tension and the drama. So this was one of those cases where we did a really big overhaul in editorial. And one of the things that when I was doing that, I added was the scenes where you see Ahsoka looking at the holographic
CG.
table. The plan she uses where she rotates the Jedi cruiser on its
Hey, Walking
side
Dead.
and the Y-wings fly out from underneath is actually a strategy that I read about in Timothy Zahn's novel, Heir to the Empire.
Wow.
And Grand Admiral Thrawn uses a very similar technique of turning his Star Destroyer on its side to lure the enemy in, thinking that the Star Destroyer is vulnerable. Then he launches all his TIE fighters out from underneath it, around, and you basically, it's like a pincher's movement. You capture your enemy by drawing them in.
We've been outflanked. Affirmative.
I actually drew that image when I was a kid. After Heir to the Empire came out, I drew a picture of the Marg Sable maneuver with the big Star Destroyer on its side. And I just thought that was a great image. And then all these years later to get to actually film a Jedi cruiser rotating up on its side. I mean, pretty cool. That was pretty exciting.
That a girl, Ahsoka.
Next one.
We wanted to do a big landing sequence like Normandy. And so our show opens up with these, clones on their way down to land on basically, enemy soil.
Who's up for a challenge? We're not getting any reinforcements until those guns are out of commission.
Obi-Wan's taking a moment to warn the clones that, look, there's people who live here. This is their home. We need to be careful for them because we're here to save them. And the clones are a little bit like, look, just get out of our way, let us do our jobs. And they're really kind of insensitive. They have their mission.
If we're here to free the tailheads, the least they can do is get out of our way.
I was really excited about this story from the get-go. It was one of the, I would have said, 3 things that came to my mind when we first got the go-ahead to do this show. This entire idea of the Clone Wars was I wanted that image of the soldier with the little child. I don't know why, but that was a very important idea, and in the end, I think it's probably one of my favorite episodes.
Be careful. Don't worry, Waxer. I don't think she's armed. Little tailhead bit me.
Stuart Lee, who at that point was still a layout artist before he became a director, he's a dad. He shot the scenes where the clones first meet Numa.
It's all right. See, I'm flesh and blood. just like you.
And I looked at Stuart. I said, I don't even think you realize how well you did this, because you're a father and you naturally have the instinct of how to view this kid.
Numa herself was kind of an interesting thing because we hadn't really done small children at that point in the 2D design department at all. We just didn't know how we were going to approach that.
Don't get any ideas. We're not taking her with us.
And even just sort of nailing down what sort of clothes she would wear, because she had to look innocent.
Hey, there you are.
Dave had sort of consciously decided to desaturate the backgrounds and all the sort of environments and skies and everything, so that Ryloth has this sort of relatively lifeless, colorless look to it, like it may have been a little more warm or inviting at one point, but it's been bombed and occupied so heavily that it's just covered in dust. So Numa is just visually very striking because she's this very bright green little thing that's against this grey, bombed out looking background.
I think it really is a nice
Numa
bridge
looks
between
horrific.
even
What do you mean,
older Star Wars
Sub?
fans and newer Star Wars fans. Getting to see these clone troopers have this compassion and be a little split on what they're supposed to do with this child.
It's okay now. We're here to help.
That's the real cost of this war. That's what's really at stake here. You know, if we make the Star Wars universe this flushed out and this realistic, then this is happening all over the place in the galaxy right now.
Well, the Gutker came from the same folder again, the sort of abandoned or unused design folder. But we were handed this sort of one grainy black and white image of what looked vaguely like a sort of squashed frog with velociraptor legs, and we were told that this was going to be the Gutker. So we did a few different passes, whether it would be sort of green and reptilian or whether it would be some unusual sort of purple color, and because Ryloth is such a sort of desert place, it made sense to keep him vaguely scorpion-like. That's another example of where texture can really add a lot to what you're seeing, because that's the exact same geometry over and over.
Shoot the bridge!
Every single Gutker is physically identical, but because the paint schemes are so well thought out and so well executed,
Really,
it
Sublet?
really does look like it's a swarm of different sized creatures.
Fair enough.
Sir, I've lost contact with
Oh, I love these droid, like,
The Republic
generals. They're
troops
so
have
funny.
overrun the village perimeter. Find out how the Jedi plan to attack.
The tactical droid, I think, was a really great addition, a great character that we added to this story.
Tactical droid, that's what they're called, sorry. Not general. Tactical droid.
Their chances of success against us are 742 to 1.
He's, you know, like 3PO. He always knows the odds of the situation he's in. He has data files on all the Jedi, so he knows their tendencies. And each of these droids is unique. They all have different voices. We'll see different ones. They all have different paint schemes and different colors. I just really like that character. Just some great shots where he's walking past the slaves. I always think that he's looking at them going, hey, how's that slave thing going? Ha 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 ha. He's just a real jerk. And I really like that. He's got almost these like kind of hippie pants on. He's got these bell bottoms on. And
I am a droid. I am always right.
Twi'lek people were a major accomplishment by the studio as well. When I talk about how hard the team worked, because we were able to get a bunch of different faces, a bunch of different, fat Twi'leks, thin Twi'leks, tall Twi'leks, short Twi'leks.
Hey, AJ, how you
Finally,
doing?
you started to get the feeling that these were actually a people. And I don't think we had that the entire Clone Wars up to this point. So that was another good thing that stood out in my mind.
Oh yeah,
Wow,
it's
look
a. I
at
mean,
this
it's a long
episode.
season. It's like 7-minute clip for each episode. And there's 22 episodes, so we're here for a minute.
It was another one of the episodes where we would sit down with George afterward, and I would say, I really want every episode to start feeling like this. It's all working. We still have the fun episodes, the silly episodes from time to time, but this is where I think we're at our best.
See you later, little one.
Twi'lek.
When you wrote the line about her seeing them and calling them brothers, and you find out at the end that
Numa!
that's all she meant, that simple word, brothers.
Nera. Sorry, Nera.
So, what is that she keeps calling us?
Nera. It means brother.
it's really touching to me, and it's really a good story of what Star Wars ultimately can be about.
I don't know. Is it? Is it a race side hat? I don't know.
Get down! Get the engine back! I'm gonna clear the road.
This was an episode I was
Is it
looking
flex
forward
fit?
to
I don't
writing
know.
much
What's-
earlier.
What does flex fit mean?
Our introduction to Mace Windu in the field.
I'll take it off in a minute.
This was a great opportunity
Nice.
to
Yeah.
show
We're gonna be doing it for the
Mace
next 7
be
weeks.
Powerful in the Force is a very
6 weeks from
inspiring
now.
leader.
It was great to give Mace his own episode where he's leading the charge and he's responsible for these people, because you see a difference between the way Anakin was leading, the way Obi-Wan's leading, the way Mace is leading. You know, he's a little more power than some of the other Jedi. Rob Coleman, who directed it, had a great idea where Mace puts his hand into the glass and it just shatters it.
A powerful warrior, but also a master negotiator.
With our forces stretched so thinly, I'm going to enlist the help of the freedom fighters, led by Sham Syndulla.
Linchpin to the whole thing was Cham Syndulla.
We really wanted to have a clear message of liberation and solidarity with the Twi'lek people who were being oppressed.
They are not sold on the help of the Jedi at first. One of my favorite lines in season 1 was when Cham Syndulla says to Mace Windu,
"How long before I am fighting you, Master Jedi?"
It really poses an interesting question about how Cham sees the occupation of the planet by the Separatists and by the Republic. To him, it's just another army. Who is on the right side here? And characters like Cham Syndulla question that.
What can the Separatists hope to gain from
Oh,
burning
freaking
our homes?
In the end,
Orn
Orn Free Taa and Cham Syndulla set aside their
Senator
differences
Taa.
politically to save the people, which is what the Jedi in the end always want.
Men of Ryloth, the time has come.
He's making me
To
want to
free
start with.
ourselves!
Yeah, do it. Season 1's
I
so
like
good.
Cham
So
Syndulla.
good.
His gun is really
My
similar
second
to
favorite
Han
season.
Solo's. It was just one of those sort of throwaway things. Cham needed to hold a gun, and he was a good guy. I just sort of took it as an excuse to sort of sneak the Han Solo blaster into the show. And it's fun to see someone shoot it.
You take these droids. I'll go find Wat Tambor.
This is cool. I didn't know that.
In the Ryloth
What
episodes,
Tambor?
we get to see more of Wat Tambor. That's another
Oh, no, hang
character
on.
that
Mixing up-
is a
mixing up
legacy
Puggle the
character, but
Last
only
Night.
had one line in episode 2, and it was played by Ben Burt.
The Techno-Union Army
It's classic.
is at your disposal, Count.
And I worked with Ben, for 15 years, so I took a crack
Oh, but
at
it's
doing
not
it.
out yet,
That
Sin.
Jedi does
It's not
not
out
have
yet.
the troops to take this city.
Of interesting note, I don't know how many fans know this, Wat Tambor doesn't really have any feet. There are no legs in the ILM model either. We checked it. That's kind of an interesting thing if you look at it. So he kind of scoots along.
Mark,
which
how you
is,
doing?
kind of fascinating.
Amir Tambor, our bombers are nearly ready for launch.
Amir,
Yes, they're very good. I had
was
to
a
test them out though,
name
but
given to
I'm
Wat Tambor by George to give him
overwhelmingly impressed with the quality of
a
it.
level
so.
of prestige,
Um,
a position of
announcement
creative
will be
power,
coming out tomorrow
The
about the new
idea
merch.
that he is greedy,
I'm glad you like
that he is looting
yeah,
this
announcement
planet, he
tomorrow.
doesn't care about the people. Wat Tambor just wants to get the golden run, basically.
It's not enough for the Separatists to enslave and murder us. They must rob us too.
As the treasure was loaded up to be taken to Wat Tambor's ship, they just thought it would be kind of funny to have a nod to Indy and include something extremely
classic.
reminiscent of the Ark of the Covenant and Raiders of the Lost Ark in the treasure that's being dragged to Lesu to be taken away.
Oh, I'll just put it
It's a
everywhere.
really nice paint job on
Oh,
that
you'll
too. It
see
was
it
painted
everywhere.
by Pushan Veneran. The Ark looks really shiny, but it's just strategic blobs of
We're streaming
white
tomorrow
paint.
night. Are you going to be here tomorrow
There's a
night?
lot of stuff in this episode. The road to Lesu, the winding sort of cliff path that leads to the capital of Ryloth, was a huge set. Probably the single biggest set that was attempted at the time. We're a little older and wiser now and would do that as a matte painting or a projection painting, or find some way to deal with an environment that size other than effectively build the thing full scale and then hand paint it. It's a bit like building the Grand Canyon actual size and then handing 6 people inch-wide paintbrushes and telling them to paint the entire thing in a month.
There's a
Okay.
fantastic sound thing on that scene where the bridge shuts
was
off.
actually doing
Too bad
kind of
for them.
exactly, yeah.
For it! They're
Definitely
turning
the
the bridge
that's
off!
the fact.
We just
Yeah,
kind
the
of
arc,
killed
yeah.
all of the
Yeah, you know
music,
that. It's a
and
yeah,
we just
little
went to a
arc.
very
Yeah.
sort of echoey, force-like moment with Mace.
Everything sounds slower or echoey as we're inside the focus of his mind. It was a great use of sound to accent a really exciting scene.
It was a great scene, isn't it?
There were a couple key images. One was the ATRTs getting the little chickens up and running around.
It was another one of those sort of design challenges because the script calls for them to appear out of an ATTE, and we had kind of accounted for all the space that was inside an ATTE, so exactly where these things were going to fit.
That's such a good point, Jason.
kind of
Males aren't that
question.
attractive, are they?
And it was Russell Chong that came up with the answer where there's this sort of telescoping platform that drops down out of the back section. Dave had always sort of intended to see these things move very, very quickly. You know, he likened them to velociraptors. He wanted to see them really sort of go over the terrain.
With the hyena bomber.
That's right.
Which is a new type of vulture droid that's much larger that, basically firebombs a town.
The hyena bombers were a Russell Chong design. They were very deliberately reminiscent of the TIE bombers from Empire Strikes Back. The basic premise was that these were sort of two-headed, bomb-dropping, bigger versions of the vulture droid. It's nice when they show up at the end and Anakin and Ahsoka show up because we haven't seen them for, almost 3 episodes at this point.
There's such a good scene.
Anakin comes at the end of the episode, kind of save the day, which hooks back to the beginning of the 3-parter.
Right.
That was close, Master.
Isn't it always, Snips?
Everything really came to a nice spot for these episodes. I think it's largely because, too, the subject matter is something the crew really wanted to do.
I thank you, Master Jedi. Today, all of Ryloth thanks you.
Everybody liked these ideas and these episodes and these characters a lot. And the Twi'leks are so classic Star Wars, to fans that grew up with it.
All right, the next one is the last one for today. My goodness, we're almost at a 3-hour stream today. We'll chat for a bit afterwards and then we'll wrap up. This is the last one though. Cad Bane. Bad Kane. It was brutal. I remember that.
I really wanted it to be intense. I really wanted it to be dark. And you get a pretty intense level of violence in the episode.
Hey, Billy.
For kind of the first time in the Clone Wars, we see these bounty hunters really operating. And I wanted to show a very effective group of bounty hunters.
Clear this platform now. Everybody else, follow me.
Cad Bane is a new bounty hunter. He has to be instantly effective. Kind of on the level that I always wanted to see Boba Fett work on in the old classic trilogy.
Certain characters, there's a degree of sort of struggle to figure out how they're going to appear. Cad Bane was very different in that the direction came from George and was extremely specific. He said it was Lee Van Cleef from Good, Bad, and the Ugly, but it was a Juro, who are the blue-skinned, vaguely Nemoidian-looking guys from Episode 4.
And we knew that this guy was going to be a very intense fighter, a very intense gunslinger,
Pasta Master.
very
Wow,
serious
it's in your
threat.
name to be a
Cad
Pasta
Bane
Master. So that is disappointing.
works for the highest bidder. And I think he enjoys what he does.
On your knees, son.
Yeah,
I
it's
would
just
be
the
so
race side.
hasty
Amazing.
if I were you.
We thought, what if there's a guy out there as a
We'll play
bounty
Battlefront
hunter
again with everyone
who
soon.
has a specialty of fighting Jedi? So when he knows that there's going to be a Jedi on the scene, he's not bothered. Just about every other bounty hunter is going to be like, ooh, Jedi, I better retreat.
Yeah.
Everything that he wears is designed to counteract the sort of powers or moves that a Jedi would try. The cheap pipes were designed to sort of counteract being force choked. The rocket boots are a way to keep up with people that can levitate or run at force speed. He's very distinctive. No one's going to mistake anyone else for Cad Bane. Certainly not when he's wearing his giant, bizarre hat.
Aura Singh makes her first appearance since Phantom Menace in this episode. She's also a very serious, intense bounty hunter that we're going to get to see more of. Forcing was a late addition to the Phantom Menace. So George wanted a female bounty hunter put in the foreground of the shot. She was the foreground element. But never before has, I think, a foreground element in film spawned so many spin-off comic books and novels and action figures. I mean, it's unbelievable. She has a whole history.
That's amazing.
Here she only has one line, but that's an improvement from no lines.
Tie your little pet up. We'll bring him to Bane.
She is an effective, dangerous weapon. She is not to be trifled with.
No.
So
Dave
dark.
Filoni request was her rifle to have a very signature sound. As she zeroes in on the target, it's the cylinder from a 357 turning. When you hear that, you know that's Aura Singh, and then somebody's probably going to die shortly after. It was a AK-47 mixed with a black powder musket, and then there's a heavily processed and compressed baby scream. That's sort of her little
How
signature.
random.
I'm going to kill you sound.
We introduced a new type of alien, little fish guy, in the episode. His name is Robinino. He was a really
Can't beat
exciting new
Robinino.
character that was derived from, I think, old Ian McKeg drawings that were for senators, and it was a senatorial attaché. And George liked the little fish guy, and he became now a little bounty hunter named Robinino, named after a friend of ours on the crew.
You better not fail me, Bubble Brain.
Don't worry.
They are the most odd people, aren't they? They're so random.
You get to see that short of coming up against a Jedi, these bounty hunters are incredibly dangerous. So dangerous that they take over the entire Senate. I mean, that's a very difficult thing to do. This group does it quite effectively, quite violently.
I, for one, have no intention of listening to this kind of insolence.
And I think it's important to establish that the bounty hunters aren't your garden variety alien laugh that you might get sometimes when you're in Jabba's palace. You have the crazy dancers, and you have the crazy music scenes, and you have the crazy, looking aliens all over the place. You need to get that. Yes, these characters are bizarre, but they're lethal.
You should know that the Republic does not take kindly to
Always
such
reminds me of
threats.
Smeagol.
If
Yeah.
you have attempted such a foolhardy
true.
action as to kidnap a senator, I assure you that you will be met with appropriate force.
Does Palpatine know this is going on? How much does he know? Is this a complete surprise to him? It's always fun to look at any Star Wars movie, Star Wars episode from Palpatine's point of view and say, how much does this guy know about what's going on? He seems quite driven to stop Cad Bane. Perhaps he didn't see someone like Cad Bane as a threat.
I feel it is my duty to warn you that you will end up paying for this outrage.
I can live with it.
And maybe he sees this exhibition of expertise by Bane as an opportunity, as something to use in the future.
We should go away together. I know a place far away from here where no one would recognize us.
We got to see Anakin and Padme have a bit of more romance, little dialogue that kind of shows Anakin trying to smooth talk her. And she's, she is more mature than Anakin. She's older than Anakin.
I have to bring this bill before the Senate. It's important.
Uh-huh. More important than the way you feel about me?
And he's going on this whole thing and gets his lightsaber out and tries to impress her, Meanwhile, the atrocities happening in the Senate below.
It's so true.
He's trapped in a building.
Classic.
There's no way out. He has to save Padme, and he doesn't have a lightsaber. Straight away, that's kind of interesting because he can't just get the lightsaber out and chop stuff up. He has to sort of outwit these people.
You have 2 more floors to check.
Come on. We've got 2 more floors to check.
He's even physically overpowered, which is pretty unusual to see, but works really well because one of the things that Dave has been sort of adamant about is that the Jedi are not superheroes. They don't have these limitless powers. There's certain things they can do and certain things they can't.
Not so impressive without your lightsaber.
Don't buy the romance between them. What, Jason? Really?
Really
What do
getting
you
the upper
mean?
hand on our heroes.
You think it's
and
not, like,
getting
genuine?
Some victories, which I know is important to the fans. It's important to me that I want to see these guys, these villains, be effective. So when you see that hat that Cad Bane has, which is a very nice hat, by the way.
Turn on the field.
You know he's dangerous.
He loves that hat.
You know he's going to be effective, and you know that the heroes are in real jeopardy. A lot more jeopardy than it's just a battle droid standing there with a gun.
Eagle-eyed viewers will notice that Zero's jewelry has gone missing since he went to prison. He doesn't have his hat, his headband, the rings in his tail are gone, the rings in his fingers have all been confiscated. If there was time, we were thinking about giving him some prison ink as well, like some new tattoos, but in the end, we just sort of took all the gear that was on him off and left it at that.
We're going to see more about Zero. You're going to see a lot more about Zero in particular series. I can't give away anything more, but it's going to be interesting. The Hutts will be back in the Clone Wars. That's for sure.
Congratulations on a job well done, bounty hunter.
Time to pay up. I don't work for free.
Wowee. And that's the last one. That is the. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, because the next one starts of season 2. Insane. Well, those are all the BTSs behind the scenes for season 1 of Clone Wars. Does it make you want to rewatch Clone Wars season 1? Let's zoom out a little bit here. We are incredibly zoomed in. My good God. How do I do this? But it makes me want to watch season 1 again. I do have to say, I reckon I should rank the Clone Wars seasons one day. Because I reckon season 1 would probably be my maybe third favorite season. No, sorry, second favorite season. I don't know. It's good, isn't it? It was so interesting, wasn't it, Katie? I love it. I miss Clone Wars. Yeah, me too. That was fun, wasn't it, Merrick? So fun. I love it. No, so I just found those on YouTube. By a YouTube account called Mr. Anderson. He just has them all uploaded there for some reason. So I could probably hang on, let me drop a link to it if you wanted to watch them again. Oh, I don't know where it's gone now. I can put it in the description after the fact. But yeah, so they're not on Disney Plus for some weird reason. They should be, but they're just all on YouTube, which is cool. But thank you again. Yeah, hitting 4K midstream, insane. I'll make a little post about it later. We might have an extra stream over the weekend to celebrate this big occasion. 4K, my goodness, so many of you came through and met me via the Ahsoka streams, which was so exciting. But here is where we start on this new chapter. So we're going to be going through the behind the scenes of Clone Wars for the next 6 weeks now. Going through a season per week. It's going to be really fun. We're going to be having gaming streams as well. Outside of that, I'm going to be doing some cooking as well. Some extra streams here and there. So that's going to be really fun. And we're going to be having some Halloween specials coming up. And Rayside members, you keep your messages open because I'm going to be contacting you guys about getting involved for the Halloween special. It's going to be awesome. Astro being a member for 1 month. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being a part of the channel. Thank you, Seth. Appreciate it. Oh my God, Trohar's here. When did you just get here, dude? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Credit for the visa. Yeah, that's great. I credited him at the start. It's a channel called it's just called Mr. Anderson. Weirdly, a lot of people know this channel. It's very iconic for having all the Star Wars behind the scenes of it on it. Where is it? Yeah, Mr. Anderson. I don't know how he's got it on there. Let me I'll drop it down below. Gnosis Worm Brain. Yeah, it's a classic one, isn't it? When you see me naked, I love it. Yeah, cooking is going to be coming back. It's going to be coming back. I betcha. Oh, I love it. You might pop it on. You might pop it on in the Discord. I love it. Yes, you guys have watch parties all the time. So if you want to hang out with more Star Wars fans, they're going nuts over there in the Discord. I love it. Love it so much. But we're going to be streaming here tomorrow night, same time, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be live here tomorrow. We're going to be continuing on something that we started 5 weeks ago, but we're going to continue it. The Squadrons playthrough, which was really fun. So we're going to continue that tomorrow night. Make sure you're here for it. We'll have a good time. And if you're loving the fresh looking merch, new Rayside merch will be dropping very, very soon. You'll see it all over the place on when that date is going to be announced and date and time going to be announced. Should be tomorrow, maybe the day after, or the latest by the weekend. But if you want to cop some cool Rayside looking stuff, it's on its way. Absolutely true. Yes, link for the Discord. Let's go. But thank you so much for hanging out today. Season 1 Clone Wars. Can't beat it. Can't beat it. Some classic episodes. Thank you so much for hanging out. Appreciate you all. Have you enjoyed this little watch party together? It's so enjoyable. Can't wait for next week. We'll go through season 2. Even more interesting episodes and arcs. But until tomorrow, enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you so much for hanging out again. Appreciate you for getting me to 4K. Appreciate it a lot. Have a good one. I'll see you tomorrow. Make sure you always choose the race side. What's the question? What's the question, David? I don't know how this will sound, but roar! Oh no, that was pathetic. My voice can't do it. Alright, I'll see you tomorrow.